Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioner of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. I'm Randy Guy, President and Commissioner of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown, Hollywood, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. John O'Connor.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Todd Morgan. David Weiskopf, our County Attorney and Acting County Administrator, is sitting to the table to my left.
Good morning.
Elisa Cassis, our Communications Director, is seated at the table to my right.
Good morning.
Amy Carter, our Video Media Producer, is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. When you come to the presenter's table, please approach by coming down the center aisle. And remember, this meeting is being televised, so you need to speak clearly and directly into the microphone for recording purposes. At this time, part of our main agenda, we're first going to go ahead and have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner O'Connor.
Thank you.
Please stand.
This morning for our prayer, I just ask that you bow your head and you say a personal prayer and send it up and in silence and just pray personally. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. Please be seated, everybody. Next, we need the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Our first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. At this time, we would like to invite Dr. Rebecca Bridget to come forward to be recognized for retirement as County Administrator. Elisa Cassis, our Communications Director, will be the Mistress of Ceremonies for Dr. Bridget's retirement.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners, and good morning, esteemed guests. Welcome to the Retirement Recognition Ceremony for outgoing County Administrator, Dr. Rebecca Bolton Bridget. Dr. Bridget was appointed by the Commissioners to the position of County Administrator in April of 2013. And during her tenure, Dr. Bridget worked closely with the Commissioners to advance their stated missions of public safety, education, and public infrastructure. Dr. Bridget maintained balanced operating budgets, capital improvement budgets, oversaw multiple infrastructure improvements, including new buildings, renovations of facilities, road improvements, and multiple public safety enhancements. Dr. Bridget maintained stable county government services during the COVID-19 pandemic, guiding 11 departments and hundreds of employees into successful and productive virtual working environments while providing uninterrupted county services and operations. Dr. Bridget also developed the St. Mary's County Roadmap to Recovery, guiding businesses to gradually reopen as pandemic safety precautions were lifted. Directed by the Commissioners, Dr. Bridget implemented significantly improved employee compensation plans. County employees, including law and corrections, received competitive raises through the Commissioner-approved and County Administrator-led phase-in of a compensation study which drove merit increased cost of living increases and stipends for those at the top of grade for 3 consecutive years. The Citizens Academy was also a key strategy initiated by Dr. Bridget to open the doors to county government, all of our operations for residents. The 9-week academy began in 2006 and continues to this day to showcase operations from every county department. It is absolutely no stretch to say that county government operations have thrived under her leadership, and the Commissioners of St. Mary's County are pleased to host this retirement ceremony recognizing her many accomplishments. We have many presentations today, and at this time, we will now present a Commissioner commendation read by Commissioner John O'Connor.
The Commissioners of St. Mary's County officially commends Dr. Rebecca Bolton Bridget for 8 years and 8 months of outstanding, praiseworthy, and dedicated service with St. Mary's County government. Through your diligence, dedication, and relentless pursuit of excellence, you have rightfully earned the community's gratitude, respect, and admiration. We hereby express our sincere congratulations on this occasion of your retirement and extend best wishes for your future endeavors and ask God's blessing upon you. This date, February 15th, 2022.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. And because Dr. Bridget's accomplishments are many, and there are many presentations today, we will ask the commissioners to remain seated for the moment, and in just a bit, we'll invite the commissioners forward for formal photographs. We have a lot of things to do today. Thank you so much, Commissioner O'Connor. Now at this time, we would invite Gretchen Hardman, Southern Maryland Intergovernmental Representative from the Office of Governor Lawrence J. Hogan, to present a governor's citation. Gretchen, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Am I speaking in this? Okay. Well, good morning. I'm here on behalf of Governor Hogan and also, of course, as a friend of Rebecca. And before I present this governor's citation, I just want to say, you know, when I think of Rebecca, four words come to mind, and that's professionalism, poised, grace, and grit. I mean, she has it all. And I wore my Southern Belle shoes in honor of Rebecca. And the governor definitely, when he heard you're retiring, definitely wanted to send his well wishes and also this governor's citation. The state of Maryland, Governor of the state of Maryland, to Dr. Rebecca Bridget, greetings. Be it known that on behalf of the citizens of this state, in recognition of your more than 8 years of dedicated and outstanding service you have made as a county administrator of St. Mary's County, in honor of the high level of expertise, professionalism, and commitment you have demonstrated throughout your distinguished career, and as the people of Maryland join in expressing our great respect, admiration, and sincere best wishes on the occasion of your retirement, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation under my hand and the great seal of the state of Maryland on this day in February 2022, signed by Lawrence J. Hogan Jr., Lieutenant Governor Boyd K. Rutherford, and Secretary of State John C. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Gretchen. And now we will have a citation presented by Shakia Blocker, representative from the office of the Honorable Steny Hoyer.
Hi, my name is Shakia Blocker. Nice to meet you again. I'm here on behalf of Congressman Hoyer. He wasn't able to be here, but he still wanted to send his honors in regards to your new future. You're welcome. U.S. House of Representatives Certificate of Congressional Recognition. Presented on this 15th day of February 2022 to Dr. Rebecca Bridget, in recognition of the auspicious occasion of your retirement from the St. Mary's County government as County Administrator. Your outstanding service to the Southern Maryland community over the years is deeply appreciated, and it calls for celebration. In your esteemed career, you have served our community with distinction, in particular, advocating for human rights of the vulnerable members of St. Mary's County and protecting them. By keeping your police accountable and professional and helping to guarantee access to high-quality education to all citizens, among so many other accomplishments. Now you can retire with pride, knowing you did all you could for the betterment and safety of our community. Again, congratulations on attaining this special milestone, and thank you for all you have done. With appreciation and respect, Steny Hoyer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shakia. At this time, Commissioner Michael Hewitt will read a citation from the Office of the Honorable Chris Van Hollen.
Rebecca, we're going to stand together.
Okay.
It's with great sorrow that I read this. Rebecca and I have become great friends. Over 8 years, I've seen her professionalism, I've seen her dedication, and listen, she's become, and Dennis too, great people doing great job, and thank God we've had her for the time we had. So Rebecca, while I'm sorry to see you go, I'm glad you're getting ready to retire and spend more time with your family. You know, I'll miss you personally.
Thank you.
From the office of Senator Chris Van Hollen, this citation is presented to Dr. Rebecca Bridget. I'm sorry, Bolton Bridget. Bolton Automotive. It reads, in recognition of your exemplary leadership and dedication as the county administrator of St. Mary's County, and your many years of service to the residents of St. Mary's County and the state of Maryland, and is with best wishes for an enjoyable and fulfilling retirement. Signed, Chris Van Hollen, United States Senator, on this day, the 15th of February, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hewitt. At this time, we would like to invite Roderick Lewis, Field Representative from the Office of the Honorable Ben Cardin, to present a citation.
Well, Dr. Bridget, this is an honor to be able to present this to you as a former constituent and someone who's engaged in your office under your tenure countless times. I can personally attest to your professionalism and hard work and dedication to the people of St. Mary's County. So it is an honor to be able to present this citation on behalf of my boss, Senator Ben Cardin, in recognition of your dedication of public service to St. Mary's County and Southern Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Roderick. Commissioner Todd Morgan will now read a citation from the Maryland General Assembly and the Honorable Jack Bailey's office.
Do you want to stand up? I'll just stand next to me.
Whatever you want to do.
All right.
There you go.
Joe Small.
Yes.
So, do I need this?
You do, sir.
I do. Okay. So a number of years ago, we hired you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was interesting coming in to replace John Savage in the middle of my first term to bring Dr. Bridget in amongst a number of qualified candidates along the way, and we've been honored to have you here. We've had discussions. Yes. Some have been good, some have been bad. But we've always learned to compromise somewhere in the middle, right?
It's all about that professionalism.
It's at that part too. Yeah, that's my middle name, Todd DePaul McMorg. Anyhow. From the Office of Senator Jack Bailey, a senatorial citation for the retirement of Dr. Rebecca Bolton Bridget. It reads, be it hereby known to all, and the sincerest congratulations are offered to Rebecca Bolton Bridget in recognition of your retirement from St. Mary's County government, having served as St. Mary's County Administrator. Your integrity, enthusiasm, and dedication to the citizens of St. Mary's County is a true testament of your professionalism. The citizens of St. Mary's County greatly appreciate your hard work, and it is noted by those who reside here and visit District 29. Signed, Senator Jack Bailey on February 15th, 2022.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan.
Okay, smile.
Thank you. Commissioner Eric Colvin will now present the Maryland delegation citation.
Very good. So, Dr. Bridget, I have this flaw where up here everything sounds amazingly articulate and just like the greatest speakers of ever, but out here it doesn't always come out that way. So I'm going to just read this because it's hard to translate here to here and here to here. But
Stick to the script.
yes, yes. So from the St. Mary's County, Maryland House Delegation, an official citation for the retirement of Dr. Rebecca Bolton Bridget. It reads, "Be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Dr. Rebecca B. Bridget in recognition of the occasion of her retirement. All appreciation is offered for her 8 years of loyal employment to St. Mary's County government and service to its citizens. Best wishes on a happy and fulfilling retirement, presented on this 15th day of February 2022 by the St. Mary's County House Delegation. Signed, Delegate Matt Morgan, Delegate Gerald Jerry Clark, Delegate Brian M. Crosby." Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Colvin. We now invite Sheriff Tim Cameron to present a special recognition from the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you. Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Bolt, Dr. Bridget, good morning to you. I am really happy that I'm not presenting you with a citation because that has a different connotation in my world, to say the least. But on behalf of the very hardworking men and women of the Sheriff's Office, I wanted to present you something that is very special to me. The plaque reads, "In appreciation and recognition of your dedicated support of the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office." And that is an understatement. But inside this shadow box is a badge. It is a sheriff's badge. It is my badge. It is a game-worn badge. And the reason this is special on appearance, but the deeper meaning is you and I have had conversations during your tenure, as it was previously stated, some good, some bad, some very heavy, some sad. Very few people know the weight of this badge. And you certainly did, and we've shared many moments. Again, some good, some terrible, some bad. But you know the weight of this badge and the level of decisions that had to be made that affected so many people. But I'm so pleased with the work that we were able to do in furtherance of the citizens of this county. And for that, we're eternally grateful. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. We now invite Captain John Brabazon, Commanding Officer, Naval Air Station Patuxent River, to read a letter of appreciation to Dr. Bridget. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and wonderful to be here. My very first public meeting as commanding officer of the base was with Dr. Bridget, for good reason. On behalf of the women and men, all of our PAX pros, it's a deep honor for me to call you shipmate. A deep honor for me to serve with you. Today we get to honor service above self, and we never want to miss an opportunity to do that. Thank you. For outstanding performance of her duties as County Administrator of St. Mary's County. For 8 years, Dr. Bridget performed her demanding duties in an exemplary and highly professional manner, resulting in gold standard relations between St. Mary's County and Naval Air Station Patuxent River. She provided collaborative guidance for the Joint Commissioners of St. Mary's County and Naval Air Station Patuxent River semi-annual partnership meetings for memorandums of understanding and agreement, including review of the installation's readiness and environmental protection integration program, bird, air strike hazard program, compatible land use, and multiple economic development initiatives. Dr. Bridget was instrumental in guiding transfer and dedication for the Patuxent River Naval Air Museum and St. Mary's County Visitor Center. Her efforts were central in prioritizing encroachment mitigation and prevention policies, ensuring public safety. Public safety remained paramount. Dr. Bridget's exceptional professionalism, loyal devotion to duty reflected great credit upon herself and have earned the deepest gratitude of all the PAX pros and all members of Naval Air Station Patuxent River community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Brabazon. We now invite Alexis Zoss to come forward to present a citation from the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Human Services.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And to Dr. Bridget. It's such an honor to be here with you today. And as I return to the county as Director of Social Services, how sweet it has been to work with you, given your history and your expertise in human services and serving people, vulnerable people. I extend greetings today to you from the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Human Services in recognition of your role as Director of Social Services in Charles County, for your executive leadership of the Social Services Administration at the Department of Human Services, and for your ongoing support of the St. Mary's County Department of Social Services. And so the citation goes like this. Secretary citation presented to County Executive Dr. Rebecca Bridget, with sincere appreciation for your many exemplary years of service to the citizens of Maryland. Because of your demonstrated hard work, dedication, and commitment to excellent customer service, your work has made a difference for individuals and families, for neighborhoods and communities, for counties, and throughout the state. We thank you. Given this 15th day of February 2022, Lourdes Padilla. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. We now invite Michael Blackwell, Director of St. Mary's County Library, to provide a special recognition to Dr. Bridget, and accompanying him is Dr. Janice Walthour. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Bridget.
Oh, just one second.
Okay.
Before we read the official citation, on behalf of the trustees and employees of the library, just a personal thank you. We've probably had more emails than conversation, but we've had a lot of emails. And they're usually me saying, I really need something for the library, help, how would be the best way to do that? And your advice has always been gracious, encouraging, and above all, wise. So thank you so very much. When I listen to you, things usually go pretty well.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And Dr. Bridget, I think we talked a little earlier about how much of a support you have been to not only the library, but to many organizations. And today, I wear my library hat and to present you with this certificate because the library is a place for the people. And you have been a woman of the people and always supportive and professional. And whenever I've been in groups or organizations and we kind of don't know what do we next, I say, call Dr. Bridget. So the citation reads, Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Rebecca Bridget, in appreciation of her distinguished service on behalf of the citizens of St. Mary's County. Her tenure as county administrator has been noteworthy due to her effective leadership of county government as a whole, as well as her support of the library through the expansion of physical facilities and programs, activities, and collections. Signed by our trustee director, Michael Blackwell. Thank you, Dr.
Invested in me by the Maryland Code as a library director, that really is a thing. I pronounced that you were fine-free. Those books you'll never have to pay a nickel one. Thank you for all you've done for us.
Thank you
so much.
Sheriff Cameron, was there anything you wanted to add now that the library has pronounced them fine-free? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for your presentations. We're going to take a series of formal photographs now, and at the end of the photographs, we are going to have a short video, and then Dr. Bridget is prepared to make remarks. So at this time, we would like to invite the commissioners to come forward, and I did clear this. We would also like to invite Mr. Dr. Bridget to come forward to take pictures.
I'll say no.
Thank you, sir.
Before we get all the photos here, I've worked with Dr. Bridget now for 7 years and 3 months. And believe me, it has been a smooth transition for all this time, because some people don't understand what a county administrator does. And I tell people, what does she do? I said, she manages and runs the county. And they go, what? I said, yeah. I said, there is this power structure. And for those of you military, you know, there's a chain of command. There's the commissioners, there's the county administrator, and everything else is under them. So she runs the county. We do the legislative part. But she's always been smooth about things. We have a little bump in the road. She looks at me, she says, Commissioner Guy, we'll make things work. We'll get this worked out. So everything we've done has been that way, and I've just right away, we had a problem with the gymnastics one time, and I said, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna make this work. And she called all the parents up, we brought them up here to the college. We had numerous nights, we talked about things, and we got it all smoothed out. No big bump, but this big bump just turned into a little teeny bump. Just that quick, she's able to do things that quickly. You're gonna be thoroughly missed.
Thank you.
By me especially. And I'm sure the other commissioners feel the same way. And it's gonna be hard to replace somebody who's done such a great job. And she's done a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
I was following the mistress of ceremony, so I didn't make any remarks when I read my commendation. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. That was what I was taught in the military, and then you have embodied every single day. A calming force for 5 personalities.
Exactly.
Definitely a calming force. There was never, the word I never heard from you was can't. It was always can. How can we make this work? What best serves the people of this county? The process, the process, the process. You have taught me so much in these years, and it's going to be sorely, sorely missed. You have touched every facet of every citizen in this county through your work. What the people don't understand is that what is here is from your guidance through our department heads, and this is just the show that you have orchestrated that we vote on. That's all it is. I truly appreciate the sacrifice you've made and everything that you've done for us, me personally, my family, and I will absolutely miss the small, tiny things that nobody ever notices that you do when we walk into the office and see it. It always brought a smile to my face, and I just wish you the best, and I thank you for everything that you've done.
Yeah.
Thank you. We would now like to invite each of the individual presenters to come forward. We'll take a group picture with the commissioners, with Dr. Bridget, and with each of those of you who presented to Dr. Bridget today. So please come forward. Yes, please.
Well, you know, just.
Thank you. As everyone is taking their seat, we have a very short video presentation and then some closing remarks from Dr. Bridget.
Tell Dave to move.
Yes, very good.
It's incredibly daunting to put together a retrospective video of 8 years of service for a person who runs the pace you have run. So thank you for all you've done for our community. And Dr. Bridget, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for the video. It was beautiful. That's behind the scenes, Amy Carter, our videographer, for that. Thank you, Lisa, for the MC this morning. And the commissioners, you're 7 minutes past. You're starting your meeting.
You can take your
I'm
time.
not going to be long
You take your time.
because I got to keep you on track. It's not going to be my fault that you're going to be late for this one. But seriously, thank you is an understatement for everything. Thank you to Dennis, my #1 fan, who without Dennis, none of this could be possible. He is absolutely the wind beneath my wings. Thank you to the commissioners for everything, present and past commissioners. I've served with multiple boards, and it's been my privilege and my honor to follow their mission and your mission, which means a stable operating budget to run the county, and it means a solid CIP budget for future expansion and future needs of the county. The leadership here is stellar. Keep working together, right? And it is the magic of 5. And what was it, Commissioner Morgan? 3?
Count to 3.
Mm-hmm, count to 3. But I always like to count to 5. And so those are all the nuances that happen behind the scenes, certainly, that make St. Mary's County grow and prosper. Thank you to the leadership, to the management, to the directors, to the staff, because it takes everybody working together to make all of this work. And thank you for the recognition and the acknowledgement from this morning for the many awards that I received. But I couldn't do this all by myself. All these accomplishments are many, 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 many people that come together to make it all work. And that's really what I'm the proudest of. You've heard, we all know, and it's in the video, and many people mention the many, many, many accomplishments, which I'm very proud of, and I know we're proud of. And so I won't go through and list them again, because I'm sure I've gone a minute into your 7 minutes already. And so again, not just to the directors, but to all the staff that make this work, and I know they'll continue to do. Thank you to David and to Catherine for acting county administrator. And I laughed with many folks this morning and said, don't worry, I passed that file off to David. I passed that file off to Catherine. I got that one done. And so this is really a transition, and I know many, many more accomplishments will be made as well. I can't finish without thanking all the central services that kept everything moving during COVID-19 and throughout 19 and the pandemic. That was certainly an additional challenge that none of us were trained, educated. None of us took a course for that. And so we were all learning together, and we did a good job and continue to keep people safe. So lastly, I need to say thank you for the trust that you bestowed and empowered for me, because it made all the difference. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Commissioner Guy, may I request a short recess to get us out of your hair?
We'll have 1 minute. That's it.
Well, she's officially gone, Commissioner
Yeah,
President.
that's right. Okay. We're now ready to restart our meeting. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the great reception we just gave Dr. Bridget. She'll be thoroughly missed by all of us, especially commissioners, and I'm sure all the 850-plus employees in the county government will miss her. And she's done a great job, and we're sorry to see her go. We'll now go right into a public hearing. We have the Department of Land Use and Growth Management public hearing to amend the comprehensive zone ordinance for new use solar major and solar minor. Mr. Hunt, the director, and I think you also have Mr. Harry Knight here, deputy director, in case you need him. So it's up. We'll let you start on it.
Thank you, Commissioner President, commissioners. And just an aside, we always need Mr. Knight.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So I have a PowerPoint to go over with you today. Thank you. Next slide. This is the history of how we got to where we are today. The CSMC formed the Solar Task Force in January 2020. Solar Task Force report to the commissioners was in August of 2021. The Solar Task Force contracted with the Chesapeake Conservancy for an analysis of optimal solar sites in St. Mary's County. Next. The optimal solar siting report includes feasible solar sites in areas where zoning, economic, or environmental factors preclude solar energy development. Next. Preferred locations for ground-mounted solar are degraded or contaminated sites, county-owned properties, and rural lands not on ag prime soils. And I've got a word to say about that last. Not allowing major solar on prime farmland is a recommendation in letters from the Department of Economic Development, Resource Conservation and Development, and Patuxent Tidewater Land Trust and Farm Bureau, which were sent to the commissioners in advance of this hearing today.
Okay.
Next, sites to avoid include ecologically sensitive areas such as wetlands and properties not compatible with the Navy mission. Next, the proposed ordinance adds 2 new uses to the comprehensive zoning ordinance: solar major, solar minor. Solar major is a utility-scale solar energy generating system, a facility that uses energy from the sun to produce electricity primarily for use off-site and sells the electricity to the regional wholesale electricity market, and has a generating capacity of at least 2 megawatts. 1 megawatt of solar power produced electricity can power approximately 190 houses. Therefore, 2 megawatts would be about 380 houses. And this size of a facility requires a certificate of public convenience and necessity from the Maryland Public Service Commission. Major site plan is required, which would be a concept site plan approval from the Planning Commission. Again, based on the correspondence that's been received, the Farm Bureau and Agriculture, Seafood, and Forestry Board letters recommend conditional use for major solar in the RPD, which would be a Board of Appeals approval prior to Planning Commission. The developer must meet the decommissioning requirements of the Public Service Commission, including proof of a bond or other financial security set by the PSC. For solar major, buffer yards would be required that are 15 feet wide, which are consistent with other buffers in the CZO. There would be the flexibility to have understory trees instead of canopy trees. Understory trees are defined as trees that will reach a maximum height of 40 feet, and there's some examples of those types. Next. The solar major would be allowed in all zones except the ACUs. The Resource Conservation and Development and Tidewater Land Trust and Department of Economic Development recommend solar not be permitted in rural legacy areas. The Farm Bureau recommends requiring conditional use approval from the Board of Appeals. I'm sure that these agencies will be addressing you in the public comment portion of today's meeting, but since I had the opportunity to look at what they sent, I thought that I would put this in this presentation in the hope that that'll help simplify the discussion perhaps. Setback and height requirements for current CZO would be in the ordinance. Navy review would be required so that the Navy can request glare analysis, heat retention analysis, electromagnetic interference analysis, and then a major utility in solar would have to follow the state decommissioning requirements as well. The preferred locations for solar major are county lands and facilities. public school-owned lands, voluntary cleanup program restoration sites, brownfield sites, parking lots or similar gray fields, and industrial zones. Solar Miner produces less than 2 megawatts, and the electricity is primarily used on site. A site plan is required for non-residential. There would be a minor site plan because the facility would be accessory to an existing non-residential use. For this type of solar, most of the electricity is used on site. Next. Once again, there would be buffer yards of 15 feet wide. There would be the flexibility to have understory trees instead of canopy trees. Next. Solar Miner would be available on commercial, industrial, institutional properties as accessory uses. Setback and height requirements are in the current CZO. No additional permits beyond those currently required for building and electrical inspections. Next. Solar Community is a certain type of minor solar facility that is connected to the electric distribution grid, has at least 2 subscribers and no maximum. Subscribers must be in the same electric service territory as the facility, and the generating capacity cannot exceed 2 megawatts. Next. For residential accessory use solar, this is installed at private residences. All or most of the power generated is used on site. Solar panels typically are installed on rooftops, pole mounts, ground mounts, or canopies. Permit is required for accessory residential use, and the Farm Bureau recommends treating agriculture accessory as residential solar in the same way. Staff sent the proposed ordinance to the Critical Area Commission, which I mentioned the last time before the request for public hearing. There is a critical area law for renewable energy generating systems in the critical area. The Critical Area Commission staff also had minor text changes that were sent back to me when they reviewed the ordinance. And the proposed ordinance, one of those in board docs that you have before you, has been modified to include changes provided by critical area staff. The solar task force appointed by the commissioners included an agriculture representative. Farm Bureau has concerns with the draft ordinance that you'll hear about and you've read about already. The Farm Bureau sent a first draft of recommendations that were included in board docs, and then they sent a letter dated today's date with recommendations to the commissioners, some of which I've talked about already today. And that concludes my presentation to bring you up to date where we are for the public hearing.
Okay, any questions, commissioners?
I had a quick one. Go to slide 10. It's on these understory trees. Now, what I'm familiar with solar fields, if that's the term for them, our projects, is that one going up to on the other side of Hughesville, where these solar arrays are probably, I don't know, 6 feet or however. Now, when you talk about an understory tree being 40 feet, am I supposed to how do I understand that?
That's in the buffer area.
Oh, in the buffer on the outside.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that's to not have the huge canopy trees.
So you don't have the interference from the sun?
So the shadows would be less, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners?
No. Not this time.
Okay, David Weiskopf will be providing the format for the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Here are the guidelines for the Commissioners of St. Mary's County public hearing for the Department of Land Use and Growth Management public hearing to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance for new uses, solar major and solar minor. If you wish to address the Commissioners via teleconference, please call 301-475-4200 extension 1234. To provide your name and address for the record, you will then be given an opportunity to speak to the Commissioners through the phone conference. All speakers who wish to address the Commissioners in person are asked to fill in the sign-up sheet located in the lobby of the Chesapeake Building. All speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to address the Commissioners. At the end of the 3 minutes, our Communications Director, Elisa Casas, will let you know your time has expired. We ask that you respect the 3-minute time limit in order to give all those who wish to participate an opportunity to be heard. The public hearing is being televised live on St. Mary's County Government, TV 95, and the county's YouTube channel. If you should miss any part of this hearing, it will re-air on Channel 95 this Friday, February 18th at 6 p.m. and will remain available for on-demand viewing on the St. Mary's County Government YouTube channel. Citizens were provided an opportunity to address the commissioners via video submissions. We received one video submission.
I apologize,
Oh,
Mr.
we did
Weisskopf.
not?
That would be a typo. We received no video submissions.
Apologies. We will now begin accepting comments for those who have signed up to speak in person. And I have 2 lists. The first one signed up is Mr. Mike Thompson. Good morning. Sure, I'll give him.
Commissioners, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm Mike Thompson at 43865 Thompson Farm Lane in Hollywood, and I am here today as a member of the Commission on the Environment. I'm a solar owner since 1981 and a solar firm employee, and I served on the Solar Task Force. Commission on the Environment supports the proposed solar zoning ordinance as a balanced approach to encouraging solar development in the county while protecting our cultural and environmental heritage. Solar energy is becoming an important part of the future of St. Mary's County. There are currently close to 7,500 systems in the SMECO footprint, growing each day with 2 large solar firms in Charles County that was referred to. There's another one up on Rennell Road, I think, that's even larger than the one you see, but they're the only 2 in the Tri-County area that I know of. There are many more in other parts of the state. Recognizing solar's growing an important role in reducing harmful pollution and in promoting economic development, the state has set a goal that at least 14.5% of electricity sold in Maryland will have to be in a form of in-state production by 2028. Our county will be expected to contribute to that goal. It's important to manage the installation of these large facilities at the county level, as landowners have a right to install facilities, ultimately cited and approved by the state at the state level. This proposed county ordinance will require large-scale solar facilities to undergo case-by-case site review, including a view by Pax River. This review will ensure that such facilities are located in a manner that protects our economy as well as important environmental resources such as critical areas, wetlands, sensitive species, historic and cultural sites, and prime farmland. Any project that might impact these resources should be subject to enhanced scrutiny. As recommended by the Solar Task Force, we agree that large facilities are best located in areas such as county-owned lands, facilities such as landfills, public schools, etc. As these have been slow in coming, almost none, we recognize that the usual application throughout the state has been on any property close to or close to more substantial transmission lines. As it is recognized that any private landowner has the right to install these facilities, this ordinance encourages sites that have less environmental impact. I see the proposed ordinance as a measured, balanced approach. Permitting solar in a measured manner will allow us to continue to enjoy our way of living with minimal effect on our public and our environment, hopefully even improving the county. Like many, I enjoyed the now fresher air than in the 80s. I don't know whether, I worked in D.C. through the 80s, and we had orange days and code days, and a lot of that's gone away, really. It really has changed.
Mr. Thompson, your time has expired. Would you please wrap up your remarks?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to enjoy the now fresher air of air fresher than in the 80s. When I was a kid, everyone used to enjoy local fish, crabs, and oysters with reckless abandon. We don't have that privilege anymore. We have environmental issues, and we have a scarcity of the product. So I think solar will enhance those ways of living. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Next on the list is Mr. Phil Dorsey.
President, Commissioners. My name is
Dorsey.
Bill Dorsey from Leonardtown. And I just want to give a copy of Chairman Reeves's letter to the Commissioners as a member of the Agriculture, Seafood, and Forestry Board. For the record.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do also is to encourage the commissioners in the RPD zone to ensure that the conditional use process is abided in these major solar applications, as well as just like the proposed ordinance was written, ordinance number 2022, amending chapter 285, by allowing the rural legacy areas to be a part of this conditional use of process approved by the Board of Appeals. I think that's important since it's there's a lot of rural legacy areas close to the major grid that would allow that. There's over 200,000 acres in the RPD zone, and I think it's important that we ensure that all of those areas, the neighbors be given an opportunity to voice their opinion. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Next, we have Christine Perez signed up, but I don't know if she wanted to speak or not. Okay, thank you. And then next, we have Teresa Willits. I'm sorry, it's a little faded.
Hello, I'm Teresa Wilson.
Wilson,
from
I'm sorry.
Indigos. I want to thank Mr. Raley of the Farm Bureau for thinking about historic things and inviting me to become part of the conversation about major historic and solar resources. So I'm going to just basically read what I've the St. Mary's County Historic Commission is appointed by the county commissioners to protect and enhance the historic quality of the county historic resources. The commission appreciates the opportunity to express our perspective to the county commissioners on the future text amendments to the zoning ordinance regarding solar major and solar minor uses. We see three areas of concern regarding St. Mary's County historic resources and solar major and solar minor uses: archaeological, historic structures, scenic and historic rural roads and view sheds. Archaeological resources are, of course, below ground and have been mapped by the Maryland Historical Trust in a statewide database, the Maryland Archaeological Synthesis Project, that has professional access component which can be used to get exact locations of resources when land is under consideration for a major or minor solar installation. Consulting this database will disclose if the land in question contains archaeological resources. If those resources are considered significant, it would be prudent to develop an alternate site for the solar project. The second area of concern is St. Mary's County historic structures, of which 933 have been documented so far. The county has GIS mapping, which locates them precisely, and the Maryland Historical Trust also has a database called Medusa, which has a location, but also PDF written documentation of each site. As with archaeological resources, a search can be conducted to learn if the proximity of a proposed solar installation is near a historic structure. In this way, the design and location of the project can be adapted to minimize the effect to the greatest degree possible. The third area of concern is scenic, rural, and historic roads. The county shares part of the state's Religious Freedom Byway with the adjacent counties and has 19 roads that have been documented as historic rural roads. These are obviously all mapped, and a visual assessment can be done to determine if a solar project would have a negative impact on the road in question. If a permit is granted on one of these roads, it should be with the condition that measures will be taken to minimize visibility and any glare. The St. Mary's County Historic Preservation Commission believes that determining potential effect is of proposed major and solar and minor solar project is critical to preserving and protecting all of our historic resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next and last person to sign up is Mr. Jamie Raley. Thank you, sir. Yep.
Morning, Commissioners. Jamie Raley, President of Farm Bureau, Avenue, Maryland. The document that I gave to Mr. Weiskopf is a copy of our written testimony that I brought over yesterday morning. I didn't see it on board docs, so I want to make sure that each one of you had a copy available to you. Because what's on there is a draft document from several weeks ago, and it's gone through a lot of work since then. Farm Bureau engaged in this process because the Bureau supports alternative energy, whether it's solar, geothermal, wind, poultry litter, digesters. We support it. It makes sense. In fact, on the solar minor, as has been alluded to, the Bureau asked that agriculture be included in with residential. We're not commercial. We're not industrial. Agriculture wasn't mentioned, so if we're put in with the residential area, and also don't have to put buffers, because if you're going to put solar up in the middle of a 100-acre farm to serve just your operation, you don't want to waste any land with trees and stuff. So our focus was on the solar major, and we looked at the documents that the county did for the Solar Task Force and the Chesapeake Conservancy. The Bureau used the information and lifted stuff directly out of, lifted language directly out of them and put it into our document. So everything that we provided came from the Solar Task Force. So we compliment them for the good job that they did. I also thank the Ag Seafood Forestry Board Chair, Ms. Wilson, chairing the Historic Preservation Commission and the Commission on the Environment, because they attended our work sessions as well, and their input was valuable to giving you the work product that we did. I'd ask the commissioners to take notice of this and direct staff to please give due consideration to what the Farm Bureau is recommending to protect agricultural land. We, like I said, we support solar. We got to make a living, and if the land gets tied up, we can't rent it or work it if it has solar on it. Particularly, our focus was on the RPD, critical area, primary preservation areas, and the rural preservation in the RPD. So I thank you all for your time, for taking a look at our comments. Does anybody have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raley. And that is everyone that we had that signed up. We will now begin accepting comments through our teleconferencing system. Ms. Casas?
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Commissioners, it doesn't appear that we have any calls, but I'll check in with our call center. Thank you.
Public hearing call center.
Hi, Julie. It's Elisa Casas. I'm calling to see if we have any public callers for the Commissioners of St. Mary's County public hearing for the Department of Land Use and Growth Management this morning.
We do not.
Thank you, Julie. Commissioners, Mr. Weiskopf, we have no teleconference callers this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Casas. Please note that the public comment period will remain open for 7 days until close of business on February 22nd. Should the public wish to send an email to csmc@stmarysmd.com or U.S. mail to P.O. Box 653, Leonardtown, Maryland 20650. Commissioner President Guy, that concludes the public hearing.
Send it to us and close this public hearing. Now on to our main agenda items. We have the Department of Land Use and Growth Management decision, amendment to the comprehensive plan land use map and zoning map to change the comprehensive plan land use map category from rural preservation to residential mixed use and zoning map from rural preservation to residential mixed use for the properties located at 23595 Pike Lane and 23556 Three Knots Road, Hollywood. Mr. William Hunt, Director of Land Use Growth Management, presenting.
Thank you, sir. I really don't have a presentation because today is the decision.
Right.
Just to introduce where the property is, you've just done that. The address is 23595 Pike Lane and 23556 Three Notch Road in Hollywood. The owners feel the changes are justified as a mistake during the last comprehensive zoning in 2010 or a substantial change in the area or both. The commissioners only have to find that one of these reasons is present. The Planning Commission public hearing was held on October 25th. No one spoke at that public hearing and no communication has been received. The Planning Commission recommends approval 7-0. The land use change was sent to the Maryland Department of Planning for review. MDP commented that the proposed map amendment is not consistent with the comp plan because the properties are not in a town center. If approved today, the Hollywood Town Center will be enlarged to include the properties. The public hearing with the commissioners was held on February 1st. No one spoke at the public hearing and no comments have been received.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Any questions, anybody? Entertain a motion?
I move to approve the amendments to the comprehensive plan land use map and zoning map to change the land use map category from rural preservation to rural mixed use and zoning map from rural preservation to rural residential mixed use for the properties located at 23595 Pike Lane and 23556 Three Notch Road, Hollywood, and authorize the commissioner present to sign any related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, Mr. Hunt, let me go right into the next Department of Land Use and Growth Management decision, amendment to the comprehensive plan land use map and zoning map for properties located at 29871 Three Notch Road, Charlotte Hall, to change the comprehensive plan use map category from mixed use moderate intensity and residential mixed use to entirely mixed use moderate intensity and zoning map of the split zone property from residential mixed use to town center mixed use to entirely town center mixed use. Mr. Hunt, you got it again.
For this property, the owners feel the changes are justified as a mistake during the last comprehensive zoning in 2010 or substantial change in the area or both. The commissioners only have to find that one of these reasons is present. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this on October 25th. Property owners within 200 feet of the property were notified of the public hearing with the Planning Commission. Residents on Charlotte Hall Road appeared and spoke against the request at the public hearing. The Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 6-1. The land use change, as with the former, was sent to the Maryland Department of Planning as is required. MDP sent back its comment, which is that the requested change of land use is consistent with the comprehensive plan because the property is in the Charlotte Hall Town Center. The public hearing with the commissioners of St. Mary's County was held on February 1st. Residents on Charlotte Hall Road attended the public hearing and spoke against the request. Written communications in support and opposing the changes have been received and are in board docs for the commissioners' review.
Mr. President, I move that the amendment to the comprehensive plan land use map and zoning map for property located at 29871 Three Notch Road, Charlotte Hall, to change the comprehensive plan land use map category from mixed use moderate intensity and residential mixed use to entirely mixed use moderate intensity and zoning map of the split zone property from residential mixed use and town center mixed use to entirely town center mixed use be denied.
Second.
I have a first and second on the denied. All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion.
I'm going to vote against this amendment because I believe that there was not a mistake in zoning. As someone who's lived in St. Mary's County almost 60 years, I remember when Route 5 was the only way you got down to St. Mary's County. And it was a windy road when I was a kid. Took forever to get down here. Now, what's happened is Route 5, Route 235, has become our major artery into this county and out of this county. It's 4-lane, in some places 6-lane highway. But Charlotte Hall Road has remained rural. This was not a mistake in zoning. Now, the attorney for the applicant has asked that we do this, we make this all one zoning, because it'll require another entrance on the Charlotte Hall Road for the use that is allowed on that side. I don't agree with that. I think this needs to be kept in mind that we are about protecting neighborhoods and protecting quality of life of neighbors who live in those areas. Therefore, I'll vote against this motion.
The reason I read this motion is not only speaking with the residents, but looking at the historic value of all the properties that are in that area. Average home, 50, 75 years, if not in excess. Some residents have been there over 114 years. The rural character that is there, I don't believe that this was a mistake in the zoning. I do believe that there needs to be a more due diligence needs to be done on an actual growth plan and mapping for the north end of the county, especially with all the development that is coming to that area. Secondly, when you go up there and you see the junkyard that encroaches right next to some of the other properties, and then you do have the commercial traffic that is already pushing onto the one road, I don't believe that that road is actually set up to sustain the amount of traffic that will be there. And anybody knows that anytime there's a traffic accident on 5, that road is a mess. So there's multiple factors that are incorporated in this, and I'm hoping that the Historic Commission will actually reach out to the residents that live there and start the process to evaluate those properties that are there and pull them in. Even looking at the Medusa that was just recently mentioned, you can see where the historical markers abut that particular area. So I think there's a lot of other considerations that need to be done, and that's why I decided to do this. So thank you, Mr. Hunt, for your due diligence.
Any other statements, Commissioners? Okay, we have a motion that the mixed use must be denied. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Okay, next we go right into our legislative update. I think Mr. John Hauser is going to present.
Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
We have passed a threshold in Annapolis. The deadlines for filing bills in the House and Senate passed for them to be treated in the normal course of things. Of course, in both houses, legislation could still be introduced now, referred to each chamber's respective rules committee and special rules for debate and scheduling set, but our universe is much constrained from where it was a week ago. As of right now, a total of 2,326 bills have been filed across both the Senate and House. We do fortunately have less to bring to your attention and less to keep track of today than we have had in weeks past. And I will try to proceed with today's legislative update with greater dispatch than we have been the last couple of weeks. First category of bills to talk on or to discuss is our update on the status of the legislation that our local delegation took forward of the bills that the county commissioners had requested. We do have hearing dates on all bills set right now. HB 475 for allowing golf carts on certain public roads had a hearing date set for February 24th at 1 o'clock. HB 527 requiring polygraph examinations for EMT and emergency services applicants. Delegate Morgan provided testimony on behalf of the delegation on February 8th last week, as well as on HB 522, setting the expenses that our county treasurer can ask for auctioneer expenses. Delegate Morgan also provided testimony on those. The two bills we additionally are tracking are HB 516, the update to the duties language for the St. Mary's County Human Relations Commission, and HB 523, expanding our definition of newspaper and including the number of publications that would suffice for printed legal notice. Hearings for both those bills are scheduled on March 1st, and we are going to prepare talking points to provide Mr. Morgan, Delegate Morgan, guidance on his testimony, as we did on HB 527 and HB 522. Next category of bills I'd like to discuss are the requests for support or opposition that we have received since the last meeting and those which we still have outstanding. The first one we placed on the agenda is the continuation of HB 506 SB 603. This is the legislation that would make a referendum question on whether or not to allow alcohol, beer and wine sales in retail grocery stores. We had notice of this coming up at our very first meeting on January 25th, talked about it then, talked about it in greater detail last week, when we finally had the bill text to look at as well. There was some discussion by the board then. I know 2 members expressed their opposition at that point. Another leaned that way, but no formal vote was taken, and it was asked that we solicit input from the Alcohol Beverage Board to see how they would deal with this legislation. The Alcohol Beverage Board did consider at their meeting on February 10th last week. I was present, explained the request, and that the county commissioners are seeking information and their opinions. The Alcohol Beverage Board, the 4 members present, did unanimously oppose this legislation as written. Their most frequent cite for their reason was they expected a deleterious effect on our local small businesses. We did receive an email response from Adam Borden, the president of the Marylanders for Better Beer and Wine Laws, who was one of the original requesters of support in this bill. I've included his email and his rationale for your edification. I'd ask the commissioners right now if they are prepared to take a vote on this measure and to issue a letter of support or opposition or remain neutral.
I move to oppose HB 506 and SB 603 constitutional amendment beer and wine licenses, retail grocery establishments, and authorize the commissioner present to sign letters of opposition to House and Senate committees for the hearings on these bills.
Second. Discussion. Where did that support, where's the residential address for that support letter, or the business address?
We're talking the address of Mr. Borden, who requested. I do not know his residential address. The organization.
Not residential, the organization. Where is it?
I don't know their exact location. I believe they're up the road. Well, I know they're up the road. I know they're not local, but they are a statewide advocacy group that has pushed this legislation this year and in years. They do not have a local presence.
Okay, Baltimore. Well, yeah, and just briefly, the reason is I remember this legislation being pushed by Prince George's County last year, the county executive, and it failed. So I think it looks like they're taking a different step on it. That was it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we have a first and second on the motion to opposition to the House and Senate bill. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Moving on, the next bill to discuss is an update on SB 250. We discussed this, I believe, for the first time 2 weeks ago. This is the change to state and local procurement practices, shortening the amount of time that all state, including local government entities, have to satisfy invoices from vendors. Originally, the county commissioners did take a stance opposing this one. We did issue letters of opposition. Shortly after those letters of opposition came out, we learned that MACO had changed its position slightly and that they were seeking amendments to the bill to exempt local governments from this bill's requirements. So it would only apply to state entities. Obviously, we thought that if that were the case, that the county commissioners, just to bring it to your attention in case if that amendment goes forward, to modify that letter of opposition to a letter of support with amendments. At this point, MACO sent out that notice on February 2nd. I don't have any update from MACO if talks with the bill's sponsor to achieve the amendment have succeeded. As of right now, I believe, MACO's position is still oppose, not support with amendments, straight oppose. I wanted to bring it to the county commissioner's attention. I believe it would perhaps be most appropriate just to stay where we are on this one, since I don't think the changes from MACO that they were seeking have been made. I can't find any evidence of it, but wanted to bring the situation to your commissioner's attention.
We did not meet last night as the rural councils because of literally Valentine's Day, and we're meeting tonight. I've not heard if the amendments that MACO has been proposing also have been accepted. So I would think for the time being, I would defer on this one until we can get some clarification from our, well, the MACO Legislative Committee will meet tomorrow morning. It will have better clarification, I think, at that time on this bill, but I'm not ready to pull back, not knowing where the amendment is sitting with the sponsors.
Right, right.
And I would suggest that common sense tells me that if the legislators and the powers that be in Annapolis see opposition from the St. Mary's County Commissioners to this bill and an amendment were passed or added to the bill that takes away any application of the bill to the St. Mary's County Commissioners, goes to follow that I think they will give that letter of opposition due
When's the
regard.
hearings on this? Do you have a date of
The hearings, that's the difficulty on this one. One hearing in the Senate has already occurred on February 2nd. The House hearing is slated for today at 1 o'clock.
This is second reading, though, right?
We've gotten through the first reading. I don't believe we've advanced a second hearing on either of these. It's still in committee, getting testimony.
So we have some time.
I would say, yeah, let's let this go by until we hear more from MACO about their amendment.
Understood. The next, and I believe final request for support that we received in the last week is a request from the Transportation Association of Maryland to support SB 208, which is a proposed bill that would make it a felony second-degree assault to attack or cause physical injury upon a public transit operator. The Transportation Association of Maryland directed the request to our Department of Public Works and STS service. Department of Public Works and Transportation indicated they would support this legislation, but obviously that support would only be appropriate coming from the county commissioners. We would only send that letter if the board believes and agrees and wants to take a public stance on it.
I read this, very familiar with this portion of the criminal law, and quite frankly, the law, even as it exists now, is flawed. The district court commissioners don't take it seriously, and quite frankly, the judicial system on the state side, based on where you're at, doesn't take it seriously. So for correctional officers, probation officers, and law enforcement officers and firefighters, you literally have to have your arm hanging off for them to go ahead, and you have to real serious type of physical assault. It's just not a slap. You have to actually go to the hospital, show some doctors and physical. They just don't take it seriously. So I don't understand what they're trying to do by adding the bus operators when second-degree assault is the same. And if it would rise to the degree of that level of crime, first-degree assault would naturally apply, especially if it was intent to cause severe bodily harm or injury. I don't understand where they're going with this. Do we have any more backfill or story?
So the background on, what they're doing is increasing the penalties from second-degree assault right now as a misdemeanor unless there's serious. And of course, what this would do is categorize that as a felony and increase the penalties from, I believe, 5 years to 10 years. I believe they still keep the same maximum fine of $5,000.
Oh, no, I'm familiar with the law. It's already been in place for quite a long time. They're just expanding it to include transportation and other nuances from that. Is there any depth to it? Is there any research data that shows that there is a need to do this for transportation operators when there's already existing criminal law that would suffice?
I'm not aware of anything from our local Department of Public Works and Transportation. I could probably find and attain those figures at the state level, and I'm sure they would be readily accessible there. I do not have them at hand today. We do have time on this one. There was a hearing on this bill all the way back on January 13th in the Senate. There's no cross-file in the House. It appears to be stalled legislation, but received the request, and we're going to bring it to you as a matter of course anyways. If it does make any movement in the House, or if there is a cross-filing, we could bring it to your attention then and resume this discussion at that time with some additional figures.
I would be comfortable with that. I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, but
do you want to hold it then until?
Yeah,
Okay.
Hold for the time being. Okay, I can concur.
All right, commissioners, hold it until more information.
And what we'll do is hold that and continue to internally track it. If there is any movement forward or it comes over to the House, we'll bring it to the board's attention at that time.
Okay, good, thank you.
The next group of bills are ones that we, no official request for support or opposition was received from an outside group, but they are bills that either the county attorney's office or another unit of local government saw and wanted to proactively bring to the board's attention. Because there's no request for support or opposition, I'll summarize these bills and where we're going and where we think of them now. Commissioners, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to field any of them. Otherwise, I'll just proceed through these one after the other. And if, obviously, if any of this legislation you do wish to issue a letter of support or opposition on, and I expect there may be some, we can, of course, take that up when I discuss the legislation. The first one, which was brought up to our attention by IT Director Bob Kelly, is SB 754, Local Government Cybersecurity Coordination and Operations, the Local Cybersecurity Support Act of 2022. We have discussed cybersecurity bills making their way through the Senate, or making it through the General Assembly earlier. SB 754 is part of a suite of cybersecurity legislation that is making its way through the General Assembly. There are at least 4 bills, 3 of which have cross files. General theme of all 4 pieces of legislation is that the state wants to take a more thorough and more encompassing statewide approach towards cybersecurity, putting in statewide standards, putting in statewide offices and units of control that would exert influence and interference, I suppose, is probably not too strong a word. Had to think if I wanted to commit to that word or not, but I'll go ahead with it. Into local government affairs. Mr. Kelly is concerned that the legislation as written does reach into our local operations and would curtail or would have greatly impact our operations and force changes from the way we are doing things. However, and this tracks with what we've learned from MACO's position on the last cybersecurity bill we tracked. We're expecting changes to be made to this legislation and perhaps still a catch-all bill that would encompass everything coming along. Mr. Kelly did attend a meeting, virtual meeting with other IT department leaders from other counties and other localities in Maryland yesterday. He's informed us that there is a lot of ground support or groundswell at that level of opposition to this, and they're expecting in their talks with MACO, in their talks with other stakeholders, that we are going to see changes to this legislation. We also have time on the hearings, with the exception of 2 House bills that are scheduled for February 22nd. We would have time to until the next Board of County Commissioners meeting on March 1st to see how this legislation takes out and is modified, if it is modified at all, and issue any letters of opposition, letters of support at that time. And again, that would catch all the bill hearings that have been scheduled for right now except for 2 House bills, but would allow us to still give testimony in time for their Senate counterparts on March 3rd. If you all have more specific questions about this legislation or these bills, I would, Mr. Kelly is present. You direct questions to him. Otherwise, we are adopting a wait-and-see approach for now to see exactly what is going to be in the
If
final.
we got time, I think we should just hold on this
I'm good
until,
with wait and see.
yeah, hold on until we hear more, especially from MACO. We might hear something in the next 2 days. So I'd say hold on it until next meeting.
And just as a point, if Mr. Kelly is believing that this would infringe upon or
rather costly too, it looks like.
Yeah, would impede the successes that he's had here and the programs that are in place. I'd just like to make that a note for the record, you know, that it's important we keep that in mind. He has led us strategically through many cyber issues.
Exactly.
So I trust his opinion on that.
The next bill that came up last week, Delegate Crosby filed a House bill requiring the State Highway Administration to fully fund the reconstruction project at the intersection of Route 5 and Great Mills. This was brought for your information. We can issue a letter of support if the county commissioners want to. I do not have the hearing has been set for March 8th. Obviously, it's still a new bill. Obviously, MACO is not tracking it, being a bill of local interest. The only information I have right now is that we have received the request for information for the fiscal and policy note, have referred that to our Department of Public Works and Transportation, and they, despite a difficult workload and many as they adjust to their change in leadership, they're going to do their best to comply with this information request, and we're working with them. But all I have right now is an update that I'm sure the county commissioners are already familiar with, that this bill has been filed.
So we have no fiscal note yet?
We do not have the fiscal note. That request was sent to us on Friday. We should have it. We should have our materials turned over by the end of the week, I would hope. Fiscal note, I would expect, will come out sometime next week.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of fiscal impact would it have on us if this is a state road, state doing the project? I mean,
Well, when the fiscal note is posted, it's basically the state is reanalyzing the cost of the project, and it will come back to committee and say fiscal note is going to be, whether it was 20, 30, 40 million dollars, I have no idea, but that will be what the fiscal note says.
Okay.
I'm not sure how the governor feels about this one, you know.
Or maybe our highway department can figure out, since we've been working with this intersection for some time, where is it at right now on the calendar?
Well,
I mean, it has nothing to do with our county, guys.
Yeah.
But what do you mean?
I mean, the state has made a number. The state has been moving on this project by making acquisition.
Yeah.
So property acquisitions have been being made along the way. I believe there's a movement afoot right now to relocate the Great Mills Post Office down the road a little bit so it remains in the Great Mills area and not going to get you. Some of you don't know, they were going to shift the Great Mills Post Office and get space in California, which we pushed back on. And I think now they have come to a better conclusion to relocate the post office down the street a little bit, so Great Mills Post Office will remain in the Great Mills area. That's a big thing as far as I'm concerned. But people can't, Great Mills can't run to California. But in the meantime, I think it's important to see what the fiscal note says and see, in the governor's budget, what's going on. We have till March the 8th, you said?
The hearing is March the 8th, correct.
And we can actually
got
make
more
a
enough
statement
time on
March
that,
the
yeah.
1st.
Yeah, I mean, this would have been nice to, the issue I have is, to Commissioner President Guy's point is, regardless of whether it's not our funding, it is our issue. Our DPW could have been involved in this going all the way back to December. Obviously, this is something that was well thought out, and it impacts locally, and it's, even if our staff needs to support or we need to react to it to get things, the Delegate Crosby's failure to allow us the time to gather the information, discuss this bill with the commissioners, has put us at a position of disadvantage to properly support anything that this could positively impact. I mean, we're in budget cycle right now. So for our staff to have to move off of that and do other things, I just think it's beyond inconsiderate to expect the county to react in this manner without giving us the appropriate time. It's disappointing because this is an important project that we've been discussing how many years?
10.
10 years.
I mean, let's go back. Delegate Bohannon, Delegate Ray, Delegate Crosby, they've all talked about this construction project, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah. I applaud his efforts, but, I mean, it would have been nice to have a heads up.
And we will put this in a posture of tracking. We will wait for the fiscal and policy note to come out and certainly share that and any other information that comes to light at our next meeting on March 1st.
Maybe 1st of March, we can look at it again, yeah.
And like we said, we have more than enough time yet, almost a full month, to react and get testimony to the House Committee in time for its hearing on the 8th.
Good.
The next bill that has come up to our attention is SB 640, which is a change to the maintenance of effort funding to our local Board of Education for this coming fiscal year. I'm going to ask and beg Ms. Jeanette Cudmore to come up and help explain this one. I can explain what the bill says. I can repeat the words on the text, but technical understanding of the funding beyond that just eludes me at this time, and I'm going to defer to a subject matter expert.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. In talking to, I met with Tammy McCord on Friday. We were kind of going over their budget submission that we received. And really, what's happening is they're looking at maybe changing the look back to the enrollment only from September 2019 through September 2021, which will have no impact at all to our current calculation that you saw in December. And then also looking at reducing any non-recurring items, which would be something that we would do anyway, and any federal or ARPA funding. One of the things that she's concerned about, or that could be part of all the blueprint and everything that's going forward is, where we need to be funding at the FY 2030 level. That amount is still $138 million, and that's estimated to be about $3.3 million increase that we would have to provide over those years to get to that level. There's other mandates that are concerning, and that's the starting salary for teachers will need to be $60,000 by FY 2026. The salaries are currently $48,000. There's a national certification stipend for qualified teachers. That amount will go from $3,000 to $10,000, and then the state will provide $7,000 for low-performing schools. And at this point, St. Mary's does not have any of these schools, so that's a good thing. And of course, with all the other, all of these items, and there may be some other mandates that are being tracked or a part of this, there should be some state sharing in these costs at this time also.
And I would concur with your sentiments there. The issue is much like last year, is that with enrollments down across the board, the maintenance of error calculation is being done based upon the previous years.
Right. We were held harmless on that. We had to.
Yeah, but we're not sure if harmless this year counts.
No, we shouldn't have to. No.
And the big thing becomes the cost per pupil. And if the cost per pupil is down, again, if the cost per pupil remains the same or goes up, and when all those other students decide to come back, then the county is hit with the bill of the new students at the per pupil cost.
Right.
And that could be a significant impact, just as it was last year. Now, it's a mathematical game of budgeting and Kerwin and all that stuff wrapped into one. So it's I'm waiting to hear a little bit more from Mako, but I'm glad you were able to address those issues today, because they are significantly financial to the county and maintenance of error calculations every year, henceforth.
Right, and currently the enrollment has been reduced. So
right.
What we would need to fund is the highest county appropriation
Correct.
at this point, unless there's other changes.
So looking at your memorandum here and the second question that's posed, is there anything related to your county's use of federal funds that makes it more complicated than might meet the eye? I mean, this is just all much more complicated. Specifically during COVID, I believe it was federal funds that were used to provide free lunches to any student who needed it across the board, and they weren't doing the same level of paperwork that previously was done. So that adds an element of complication that initially I would think of to that question there.
Right, and I believe that would be any county funds of their American Rescue. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but we have not provided any funds from our American Rescue to the Board of Education. Okay. So that would not be something that would have to be removed from our calculation.
Gotcha. Good.
You're welcome.
You had a question, Commissioner, on that?
No, thank you, Ms. Cudmore.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
That was good, thank you.
And then moving on to additional bills of note, of interest, possibly to the county commissioners that have come up. HB 427, SB 790, this one will be a very quick one. This would expand the definition of the crime of obstruction of justice to apply to proceedings of the executive and legislative branch. It would make that crime a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment and a $10,000 maximum fine. Mako is seeking an amendment to this legislation to extend its provision to apply to local governing bodies. So if that is passed, obviously would be of interest, and we will bring it to your attention at that time. For right now, it's just something we'll continue to internally track. SB 320, HB 361, mold inspections and remediation would have a bit more immediate applicability to St. Mary's County. What this bill would set up a statewide new regimen of mold testing and standards for how you deal with allegations and the presence of mold in residential rental properties. Where the issue would be here in St. Mary's County is it would call upon a state body to create a regimen of standards that would apply statewide to provide for the assessment and treatment of mold. That would also include inspections that would have to be done by the appropriate county staff to verify their existence. This, if passed, hearings have already occurred on it. The are waiting now to see if it moves forward and what amendments it may move forward upon. But if it does pass, it will require our local Department of Land Use and Growth Management's inspections team to drastically revisit how they handle situations right now. Under existing law, if someone comes to the Department of Health with a livability code complaint and alleges the presence of mold, the county government's response is to say that we do not have anyone on county government staff with the appropriate qualifications or the standards to assess mold, and we have to refer them to private sources. What this bill would do, it seems, is pass the legal requirement to go out and start making proactive inspections of our own by whatever standard of time these state regulations may call for. That would require a cost. Right now, Land Use and Growth Management's best approach to this bill would be to hire out on a contract basis an independent inspector who does have the qualifications to inspect for mold and assess its danger or its threat to health and human safety. So right now, we're watching this one. We could issue any letters now after the hearings, but we just have to see what route this bill takes and exactly what its effect and requirements of us may shape out to be if it's in fact enacted.
This could be very costly at the end of the day.
It could, absolutely.
Really could. And that's, I think, MACO's concern has been, that's why they're working on the amendments as we speak.
Yeah, going back one, you piqued my interest with the amendment for, you said it was obstruction and what else?
Obstruction of justice.
Is it just obstruction, or is there anything additional to that?
It would be obstruction of justice. What this bill would call for, HB 427 and SB 790, is that any attempt to delay an official or obstruct or impede, are the actual words, a proceeding of the executive and legislative branches by threat of force, or other corrupt means would be a misdemeanor punishable by 5 years imprisonment and a maximum $10,000 fine. It takes that same standard for obstruction of justice, which right now only applies to the courts, and makes that a crime when you're obstructing the processes of executive and legislative governments as well. MACO's amendment is seeking to not only apply this new standard to the executive and legislative branches, but to local government proceedings as well.
Okay. So I'm seeing a concerning trend, and I think I definitely want you to track that one, because I don't like MACO's position on this amendment at all. In fact, if you know, when you talk about what is the broad spectrum of disrupt or interfere, of course, if this law does pass, I'm sure it'll end up in an appeals court at some point, and all the way up is, it appears that it's not about holding the elected officials responsible for obstruction of justice, which I highly feel there should be some law about that, and across the state. But it sounds like more they're trying to make citizens accountable for actions that we've seen in the news. Voicing their opinion, which may obstruct, let's say if you have a senator that's trying to go to a hearing and then somebody's protesting, and it's some executive action they need to take, or a county executive that is trying to get into the building and there's a protest. Is that obstruction because they need to go take a vote, and now we're going to, somebody's exercising their First Amendment? I might have a very skewed view on that, but I'd like to get maybe another conversation with you about it, get some another opinion to see where it's coming from, and watch that. I just see it being a very, very slippery slope down the road of impinging on the citizens' rights that are already granted to them.
And we can do that, and not as well versed in the greater scope of constitutional law that applies to this bill as I am some others that are on this list. Of course, the state law cannot trump the First Amendment, and the First Amendment does have protections of free speech, assembly, petition, all of those. If this bill now, obstruction of justice statutes, they exist. We have one that applies to the courts in this state. They have statutes that apply to the executive and legislature bodies of other state governments. When those bills exist, and if they're going to be upheld, court is going to have to include that they don't have an inordinate chilling effect or a deleterious effect on a citizen's exercise of their own First Amendment rights. But that is balanced with the fact that you cannot also, in asserting First Amendment rights, make any threats, make any threats
it's limited
of physical
in certain
violence.
instances.
Correct. So there would be obviously limiting constraints on this bill already as passed. Exactly what those are, we don't know, but I will keep an eye on this one. We also have time on this one. A hearing in the House occurred back on February
8th. Yeah.
And the Senate still has not set a hearing date on its version of the cross-filed bill.
No, that's great. Of course, with the local amendment, and I'm not going to try and belabor the issue, but there's many rogue small municipalities throughout the state, and the lack of balance within their councils or commissions could definitely, I see an abuse of the law that could be applied, and an unbalanced approach. So either way, I'll just have a conversation with you about it, but I appreciate you bringing that to the attention. That's very profound. Thank you.
And I'll read up on that one probably when I can, my spare time, of course. One of the advantages of asking me to do this is that I do genuinely find it interesting and take a passion in it. I am happy to look this up in probably give me 24, 48 hours, and I can have quite a conversation with you.
Happy lawyering.
So on this mold bill, I know that the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors is opposing this bill too.
And I am not surprised by that one bit.
Yeah. So keep tracking it.
But we will continue to track. Moving on, SB 330, also concerning the Health Department. This bill would require the health departments to, among other things, revisit and publish in a noticeable place and easy to find access their procedures for making health code inspections. It would also require them to institute an internal appeals process to appeal within the health department's regime itself any conclusions or decisions the health department arrives at that could result in a shutdown or adverse action taken to a property or business owner. MACO opposes this bill because it sees that MACO does consider this an interference into the operations of our local health departments and subsumes some of their autonomy. It also believes that health departments already have appeals processes, and you also already have the means to appeal through the courts and other bodies. What they see this second-tier authority is an ultimately redundant and timely and costly addition of another layer of bureaucracy to resolve these measures. So again, we can take an interest in it if this peaks to the commissioners. We did have a hearing on the 8th in the Senate. The House hearing is February 23rd. Otherwise, we will move on to HB 445/SB 545. This takes a change to the advertisements that have to be taken out every year to the constant yield tax rate. Right now, whether the constant yield tax rate goes up or not, that advertisement must be placed in the paper, and it must be called notice of tax increase, even if the tax increase is even if there is not going to be any tax increase, and the tax rate is going to stay the same. What this does is changes the advertising requirements and changes the language such that when the intention is not to actually increase the tax rate, the advertisement does not have to read notice of tax increase. I reached out to Ms. Cudmore again for comment, and her comment was that this has been a long time coming.
And that's a true statement, very true statement.
Yeah.
And I think when Kevin explained that to us, I think the MACO Legislative Board was totally on board and supportive of the rewording of the way the deceiving bill is, the way the deceiving language has always been there.
So we would, if one hearing, the House bill has already been heard on the 8th. We have the hearing coming up tomorrow on the 16th for the Senate. With the Senate's revised rules of offering testimony and uploading letters of support, we would be able to get that into the window right now if we wanted to right now. Otherwise, we can stand pat on the situation as it is. MACO has, as Commissioner Morgan said, taken a position supporting this. Happy to lend the commissioner's voice to the effort if you all would be so moved.
I'd make a motion to support the bill.
I'll second it.
Have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Letter of support.
Letter of support out in all due haste.
Okay.
The next bill, HB 275, SB 273, would ban the use and sale of PFAS Class B firefighting foam by January 1st, 2023. I pulled this one out and thought it might be of interest to the county commissioners because it is named the George Walter Taylor Act. Mr. Taylor, of course, was one of our local volunteer firefighters, very active in Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department. He passed away in 2020 from cancer. They believe the complications of which could be tied back to some of these known to be carcinogenic chemicals that are used in firefighting foam as of right now. Just brought this one of interest. Note there is a bill named after one of our local citizens making its way through. Just if it's of interest to the county commissioners.
I've read up on this bill. I've followed a lot of the news and the advocacy that's there with it. And, you know, there's a lot of measures that over a firefighter's career they deal with the carcinogens. And down here, they've taken the steps to have hot zones and cool zones and work their turnout gear. And based on what I read and all the language that's in there, I have no problem supporting this based on the language that's already there. I just wanted to hear from the other commissioners and see what they thought before I made a motion.
I think the amendments that they're trying to make are valid to it. I mean, we have two different groupings here. I think we discussed this before. We have the fire departments out here in the local area, and then you have the federal fire department on the bases. And this bill does not apply to the federal side. It only applies to the, I would say, the county side. Am I correct?
My understanding, yes.
Yeah. I know that a lot of PFAS discussion has been made locally for a couple of years now on the contamination, particularly down the San Indigos area in the base. But it's all been directed federally for the PFAS usage by the Navy. So I think that it's good that, you know, we can support the PFAS legislation at the local level. How the Navy or how the DOD decides to address PFAS in the future is totally out of our control.
Very fair point. So do you have the, what was the bill number again?
HB 275, cross-filed as SB 273.
Motion to send a letter of support for House Bill 275 and Senate Bill 273 and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the related document.
I'll second the motion. However, I would say we support with the amendments.
I accept the friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay, support with amendments. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Right, then moving on to what was contained on our memorandum number 2. One additional bill came up that we wanted to bring of notice. That is SB 552/HB 365, the Climate Crisis Plan, also known as the Better Together to Save Our Weather Act of 2022. We have discussed climate legislation before. We talked about SB 528 last week. That is, of course, the big, I believe, climate measure. The biggest climate measure winding its way through the General Assembly right now. What SB 552 HB 365 would require is that each county would have to prepare a climate crisis plan and update it every 3 years. That climate crisis plan would, among other things, have to identify how the county can increase renewable energy, how it can reduce total energy use in all buildings in the county, residential, governmental, and commercial. The county would have to establish greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. It would have to include a plan for retrofitting existing buildings to be 100% electric, and it would need to reduce or eliminate fossil fuel use in new buildings. We have hearings coming up in the House on February 18th and in the Senate on February 24th. So if we are going to issue letters of support or opposition, we would need to have that decision made today, since there is no meeting next week. Did again reach out to Ms. Cudmore, asking for what the impact of this one might be. She would anticipate large fiscal impact, and spoke with Tammy McCourt, CFO for the St. Mary's County Board of Education. Both of them anticipate large fiscal impacts to the Board of Education and the county, with the requirement to, again, make these buildings more energy efficient going forward and retrofit existing buildings where the incremental cost does not outweigh the calculated social cost of continuing under present greenhouse gas emissions.
This has been heavily debated at MACO, and I don't think MACO's on board with this bill at the present time in its current condition, because the situation, as you point out, is extremely cost prohibitive, and just to retrofit one school to make it compatible would wipe out their CIP budget. And for us to adopt these resolutions, I don't think there's enough money in our CIP over there. We'd have to give up a whole bunch of projects that I think are very critical to the citizens of this county in order to meet the climate objective of what this bills are all about. And I think that in discussion with the rural counties in our meetings, we've all been pushing back against this bill because it's such a wide swath that just basically just drops everything on top of you. And if I remember correctly, there's no state funding to support this. It's basically being pushed to the counties to be able to support. So the cost is just too prohibitive this time, I think, for St. Mary's County.
Agree.
You want to make a motion to oppose?
I'd make a motion to oppose this bill in its current manner. I haven't seen the amendments from MACO. Again, we're a day behind, so I can't really address how we would have discussed this last night.
So similar, perhaps we could proceed.
Hold on a second. I'll second the motion to oppose in its current form.
Okay, discussion, anybody? Go ahead.
I was going to say, perhaps a way to is treat this similar to we did SB 520 on procurement. Oppose the bill, send out a letter of opposition right now if we do not like the present content. If it does appear like amendments are likely or forthcoming that will obviate the Board of County Commissioners' concerns, we can issue a modified letter as may be appropriate in the future.
I can concur with that.
Yeah, concur with that, yeah. Because MACO definitely is looking at opposition to a lot of it, yeah.
So you have a motion and a second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, and any change to you're just going to write a letter of opposition?
We'll
with
use the
possible
same
amendments?
standard template letter of
Okay,
opposition.
good enough. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Final thing to track and bring to the Board of County Commissioners' attention that I thought would be of interest is not legislation per se, but is the current status of the legislative redistricting plan. I know Commissioner Hewitt, you asked me 3 weeks ago at our first meeting on January 25th to stay on top of this one. Of course, that the anticipated lawsuit to the 2022 legislative redistricting plan was filed. 4 petitions in total. 2 are pro se motions. 2 are petitions where there are 3 Republican legislatures in each that have filed their own dual petitions. They've all been consolidated into one case. And they are challenging the legality and the constitutionality under the Maryland State Constitution of the legislative redistricting plan that was enacted by the General Assembly this year. I summarized their main points of contention in the memorandum. They are substantially similar to arguments that were advanced in the past. It's no surprise that the legislative redistricting plan would be sued. I think every redistricting plan since 1970 has been challenged in court. Mixed success and failure rates. In 2002, the courts did overturn the legislative redistricting map and drew their own. In 2012, they upheld the state redistricting plan. Where we're at right now is the lawsuit has been filed. Scheduling conference will occur on the 17th of this week after the state's response to the allegations will be supposed to be filed by close of business today. That response will, of course, be the state insisting that the requirements of the law have been complied with, and this will be set up for probably about a month of evidentiary hearings and argument and testimony in front of the special magistrate that the court has appointed to act as almost a trial coordinator to handle the trial phase aspects of it, and then will bring his recommendations to the Court of Appeals, and they will ultimately decide whether to accept or reject that special magistrate's analysis and recommendations on how to proceed in this case. Of interest in this case is that the special magistrate appointed this year is retired Court of Appeals Judge Alan Wilner. He was the same special magistrate appointed in 2012 when he recommended to uphold the legislative redistricting plan. Of perhaps more local and immediate concern is that the Court of Appeals on its own, in response to this lawsuit, and because of the potential that the existing legislative landscape of the state or the election landscape of the state could be radically altered depending on how this lawsuit is handled, they have unilaterally extended the filing deadline for all state and local offices. So the deadline of February 22nd has now been pushed back to March 22nd to file for any state, legislative, or local office. We'll just continue to track the...
So they have extended to the 22nd of March, all filing?
All filings,
Including local.
not just legislative districting, including filings for local governments.
Interesting.
And they didn't give a rationale for why they did that. One can speculate on the reasons, but it is clear that it does apply to local offices as well.
Okay.
And any questions?
Any other questions, Commissioners?
Nope.
So we have to March 22nd.
Have until March 22nd, Commissioner Hewitt.
Thank you.
That's
Anything else,
all.
Commissioners? That's all you have, John?
That's all we have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hauser. Thank you. Okay, next we move right on to County Administrator time.
Thank you, Commissioner
Weisskopf.
President Guy. First on my agenda is draft agendas for March 1st and March 8th. There will be no meeting of the commissioners on February 22nd. Mr. Blackwell, please step out of the room or in. Thank you. So first up is Tuesday, March 1st. We'll start at the regular time at 9 a.m. with the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Morgan, followed by approval of the consent agenda, and then proclamation for National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and also a proclamation for Engineering Week, and then accommodation for Lieutenant Kenneth Kuzik's retirement, and accommodation for Harry Knight's retirement. And then the Department of Finance will hold a public hearing for supplemental appropriation, and then you will convene as the St. Mary's County Board of Health, and then have a decision regarding the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance for solar minor and solar major, and then legislative updates from the Office of the County Attorney, and then County Administrator time, followed by Commissioner time, closed session for litigation and personnel, and then you will adjourn and then come back at 1:30 for the budget work session, adjourn, and then come back at 6:30 for the Office of the County Attorney public hearing for the Police Accountability Board. And then on Tuesday, March 8th, you will start at your regular time of 9 a.m. and have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner President Guy. We'll have a proclamation for National Athletic Training Month, and also a proclamation for Women's History Month, and then legislative updates from the Office of the County Attorney, County Administrator time, Commissioner time, adjourn, and then come back at 1:30 for budget work session. That's it for the draft agendas. Now first for County Administrator time is the Sheriff's Office with fiscal year 2023 Maryland Highway Safety Grant applications. And Captain Steve Hall presenting.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Weisskopf.
Morning, Captain Bill. Captain Hall.
As this board knows, the highway safety grants are reoccurring. We have this new one. The grants cover overtime and fringe. There is no county match, and the applications are consistent with the FY23 budget requests. Like before, the initiatives that we do are focused on enforcement and public awareness, outreach programs that focus on aggressive driving, speeding, occupant safety, and impaired operation of motor vehicles on our roadways within the county. I seek your approval.
I move to approve the Maryland Highway Safety Grant applications for FFY 2023 on behalf of the Sheriff's Office for the total amount of $23,500 and authorize the Commissioner President and Sheriff's Office staff to sign and submit the related documents electronically.
Second, discussion. Captain Hall, a couple weeks ago, the Sheriff's Office conducted a whole bunch of traffic enforcement along 235.
Yes, sir.
Which I was really happy about seeing, and with your guys out there were doing a great job. Do you have any idea how many citations were issued? Or could you find that out for us?
I can find out, but I think it was in the vicinity of 20.
Okay, where they were
that's not including warnings.
How many warnings do you think were given out?
I'd have to check on that number.
That'd be good, please, thank you.
Got a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Captain Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Hall. Next on the agenda is the St. Mary's County Library Semi-Annual Brief by Director Michael Blackwell and some of his Board of Trustees. I see Ms. Walthauer, and I'm sorry I don't know the gentleman's name.
This is Tom Russell, who's a new trustee with the library, but I think very familiar to all you for having served on quite a few boards over the years. Well, you've had a long morning already, so thank you even more for the opportunity to talk with you a little bit about what's happening at your library. And we'll begin just because services are perhaps especially needed during hard times. These are figures since July 1st of last year, so just giving you about a 6-month here. Our physical circulation of items is up 47%, so for a little bit over 6 months, just about 500,000 items checked out of your library. Our digital circulation, that's ebooks and audiobooks, is only up 1%, but that's not surprising because the huge jump came the year before. It's up kind of about 40% since before the pandemic. Lots of ebooks and audiobooks going out. We've had 340 programs. A lot of those are virtual. Commissioner Colvin, you were talking earlier about your son, comes regularly to our story times. And over 2,000 uses of our meeting rooms and study rooms, and our visitor count is 153,777, so that's up 519% over the previous year. And we've had over 20,000 uses of our public computers. And to me, yes, I love the fact that the library is getting more heavily used. Again, we're about 50% of our pre-pandemic capacity, but even more just shows that we're coming back. COVID is not going to beat the residents of St. Mary's County, and they're coming out to their library.
So, quick question, the physical circulation, has that gotten close to the pre-COVID numbers?
No,
It's still building back up to that?
About 60%.
Okay.
And I'm going to anticipate as the pandemic becomes endemic ends that we'll get back up to our previous figures, and I'm hoping exceed them. Next slide. Because libraries connect communities, just talk about some of the partnerships we have. On February 14th, some of you may have attended the Chamber of Commerce Zoom with our state elected officials. That was the library Zoom providing that, and we were happy to host that with the Chamber of Commerce. The NAACP Historic Black Colleges and Universities College Fair is coming up on this Saturday, and the library is going to be a participant in that, and that is just an amazing event. The students coming out, and this year's going to be virtual. It's even better in person, but it's great virtually too. They meet with the representatives of the college or the university. Often they get accepted right on the spot, and they not only get accepted, they get financial aid. So that's just an incredibly moving thing, and we're delighted to be taking part in that. I got a phone call when we were having a really bad weather day saying, would the library serve as emergency shelters? And the answer to that question, fortunately, we really didn't have to do that because power was restored, but there were thousands of people without. It's not even a question. We will happily work to make our meeting rooms and our lobby spaces. We have generators. You know, as long as there's electricity there and we can keep the heat on, we will gladly open the libraries to serve as community shelters. Getting to where, you know, the books and the computers are, that's a little bit more difficult, but the spaces will absolutely make sure are available for you. We've been working with the health department. We have distributed over 5,000 COVID test kits. And the reason why it's not more is because the health department wanted, you know, the 3 locations throughout the county, but they found the demand was so high. I mean, we gave away 5,000 in about 4 hours that they couldn't just keep us stocked, so they moved that to a central location. But we have now and are still giving out K95 masks, and we've given over 60,000 of those as of last week, and even more demand for those. And we have been sharing health information on our website and through social media to sort of support the health department as they help the county battle this pandemic that we're in. Next slide, please. We have not diminished our services during Omicron. We did not close the buildings. We did not shutter any hours. Lexington Park is Sunday is the 1 hours we haven't had since the pandemic, and we're restoring those this Sunday. The county was not able to clean the buildings on Saturday nights, and so we were concerned about that. But we think, given the CDC recommendations, that we can go back to that without necessarily having the deep cleaning on a Saturday night. And for that 4-hour period, we often see as many people in that library as will be there on a full day, say a full Monday or Tuesday. Very high demand for that. We're bringing back our in-person inside programming. We have been doing a lot of virtual programming and some outside programming. Adults and teens, obviously all eligible for the vaccination. In March, we're going to have some in-person programming for them. But we're finding that, like an author visit, we can attract an author from outside the area, very popular. We're going to continue with virtual in many cases, just because we'll get 400 or 500 people attending one of those sessions. So we're going to learn what works and then go back to the inside, the in-person inside programming for things like crafts or things like that. For ages 5 through 12, we're going to be back to inside programming in April. And birth through 4, not yet eligible for vaccination. We hope by June that we'll still be able to start opening up and having those story times. We will have outside story times starting in March as the weather allows through May. Piney Point Lighthouse and Museum, Historic Sotterley, Greenwell State Park, Historic St. Mary's City, Patuxent Naval Air Museum. We partner with them. We send our storytime people there. We maintain social distancing, but those kids get that vital exposure to early childhood learning. Slide, please. We're relaunching an initiative called 500 by 5, where parents are encouraged to read with their kids up to 500 titles by the time they get to age 5. We'll have new logo and branding for that, some new booklets for our participants in it. You can go to the library and log on and do bulk. So let's say you do 10 books at a time, you can log all 10 at the same time, kind of simplifying, counting up to that 500. We have new displays up, and most importantly, the children are going to be treated like royalty. We have crowns that we give them. They'll, if they want, they can have their picture taken. Think something like, I go to a Mexican restaurant for my birthday. That level of enthusiasm. We're going to treat these kids like they are royalty for making sure that they've gotten through there, and their parents too, because during that age, it's when the mind actually grows the most synapses are formed. A lifetime of learning is established in those first 5 years, and the library is one of the sources that people have to make sure that that is happening. We had a program that we got a grant for. It was nationally competitive, Thinking Money for Kids, which helps children understand what money is, its function in society, making money choices, and values like fairness, responsibility, and charitableness. So we had, piggy bank decorating, we had coin sorting. So that was at Lexington Park, and as I said, we had a national grant for that, and heavily attended and very successful program for us. Slide, please. Because, hey, the future should be even better than we are now. We, through our Southern Maryland Regional Library Association, got RFID in the library. So there's a little digital tag in all our physical items now. And it allows two things: much faster check-in and check-out. So you can set a whole stack of books if you're doing your self-check and put them right on our counter, and they all check out at once, as opposed to having to do them one at a time. The only people upset about that are the kids. They like to do them the one at a time. You can still do that. We do have a mobile app now. You can check out materials on your phone. So we were primarily interested in doing that as a COVID measure, but people are finding it's just incredibly convenient. So The Lexington Park Library is having a 20th anniversary. That'll be this October, and we're going to be having some events, perhaps including a block party. You're all going to get an invite to that. It'll be close to election time. I hope you're going to come on out and see the public and just enjoy the fact that that library, it's the busiest library in Southern Maryland still, although I imagine as the pandemic passes that the Leonardtown Library is going to give it a run for its money. But if you want to see diversity in St. Mary's County, come out to that library. We did get a $250,000 grant for a mobile library. Construction on that is going to begin in April. It's being built right here in Maryland, just across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge on the other side of Annapolis. As it gets going, if you'd like to go up and tour it, I will happily arrange that for you. We are completing a facilities master study of all of our locations, what the buildings are like, how well they're serving the public, what their physical condition is, and we expect that to be done by the end of March. We also got a grant for that. I could go on for quite a bit of time about the e-books law, but the state of Maryland did pass a law which went into effect on January 1st of this year, requiring any publisher who sells an ebook or licenses, since you really can't even own your own personal ebooks, to residents in Maryland to also do it to libraries. And there have been a number of publishers who haven't given their holdings to libraries. They say that it precludes their sales, and this bill requires them to do that. And on reasonable terms, libraries are paying 4 and 5 times for an individual book what we pay for our physical books. And so digital, although it's hugely growing, and we could have it grow much more if we could simply meet the demand by getting fairer terms from the publishers. That law is currently under challenge. The Association of American Publishers has launched a suit. They're trying for an injunction. I'm very proud, and you should be too, not only of legislation. This is the first legislation in the country like this, and it was the idea of St. Mary's County Library to bring that forward. But subsequently, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Illinois, and Tennessee have all launched similar legislation. So it's become a national movement to try to get a fair deal for ebooks and libraries. We'll see how the lawsuit comes out, but even if an injunction is granted under, they're saying this is federal law and the state shouldn't have any say in it. We're arguing this is fair consumer matter in Maryland, that it's simply not a fair deal for you as Maryland taxpayers for libraries to give you access, as I said, 4 and 5 times what a print cost would be. So even if an injunction is granted, it is still an important movement, and we'll be looking to have federal legislation move forward on this. Next slide. Because sometimes it ain't easy. We have, since July 1st of last year through January, had a 40% staff turnover. It's the so-called Great Resignation has hit us too. In part, it's because, let's face it, some people simply aren't comfortable working with the public during a pandemic time, although we have had no cases of transmission in the libraries as far as we know. We have had some breakthrough cases among staff, but that's been something that's taken place at home. In part, that's because the health department has given us those wonderful air filters, which we think really improves our air quality and filters out COVID virus. But part of the reason for that, people leave, we give them exit interviews, they say this is a great place to work, I really like it, but we have heavily part-time staff, and frankly, if a Target is offering $18 an hour in full-time with benefits, or McDonald's $16 per hour full-time in benefits, we just can't match that. Of course, the base, sometimes we tell young people in, they go work for the base, we're just delighted for them and boosting their careers. We'll never compete with that, but it has been difficult, I'll say, to keep fully staffed. We're managing. Morale is high. I don't think we've lost a step in terms of the service, but we are seeing that. We are seeing a state funding cut for next fiscal year. It was supposed to be an increase. I can send you a document explaining why, despite the fact that the amount is apparently going up. But basically, the idea is that St. Mary's County, compared to some other counties, is considered more comparatively wealthy than they were the previous year. That might come as a surprise to you. But the county apparently is a little bit, getting a little bit more money back from the state, and I say back from the state because, of course, it's generated here locally. And therefore, we're funded at a lower percentage. So we do have a budget request that we'll be looking at with you in March. Just to let you know that we are looking at difficult times in a funding cut, so I hope you'll consider supporting that, especially perhaps the raise for our staff. Obviously, the cost of living is going up with the inflation rate, and we hope that you'll consider us fairly with the other county employees. And we also hope that you'll consider favorably some staffing for that mobile library. It's going to go out to senior facilities, go to daycare facilities, the Veterans Home up in Charlotte Hall, and just any place where it might be difficult for kids or anybody really to get to a physical library, you know, Piney Point, Tall Timbers, Scotland Ridge, Colton's Point. Go drop the library there, turn on the Wi-Fi, citizens can come on board, there'll be workstations, there'll be a collection that goes with that. So we're taking the library out to people. And we're bare bones staff, so having some FTEs for that will be very helpful for us. And at that, I'll just conclude my presentation, and thank you so much for listening, and please ask any questions.
I have a couple, please. First,
sure.
I didn't realize the library in Lexington Park was 20 years old.
It is 20 years old.
Because I remember sitting on that library task force, and it was just like a couple of days ago. So, holy mackerel, that really, I remember when we moved that library from the old, what's now the theater over across the street, and the work we put into it was phenomenal. So that's a good thing. I'm going to have to ask Mr. Hauser. He's not here, but he's probably listening upstairs. That state funding cut. MACO's addressed this, and I thought that there was something in the language this year that was adding money to, there's a resident charge, and we had more money going into the resident charge, and then there was a minimum amount of money that had to be funded to the library system, and they gave us the chart, and I mean, St. Mary's County was voluminously over whatever the minimum was, but I thought they sat there and said everybody was going to get a raise.
And unfortunately, and I will happily send that document along to you, we are not, our amount is down about $6,000. And there's like 14 things that factor into this, including railroad miles. I have no idea what effect does the amount of railroad tracks in a county have to do with library funding? But that's how they figure this all out. Now, we are asking, and I had a Zoom session with Senator Bailey this morning, we are asking that the state add about another $1.4 million in funding for libraries for next fiscal year. For St. Mary's, that would not put us up to the positive, but it would close this gap, so we would be at least flat funded. But that's, I will happily share that document with you.
Mr. Hauser, if you're up there listening and watching, would you please go back and research whatever that bill was and get us some clarification too, please?
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Anything else, Commissioner? No, thank you very much for that. Yeah, we'd like to see that letter about cutting funding.
Okay, sure. I will. When I get back to my office, I will forward that. It came from the state librarian, and we were expecting, to get maybe about $5,000 to $18,000 in the budget I've submitted to you. I assume we were going to have a raise of about $20,000 from the state. Obviously, that's not happening. So I will send that along to you. And thank you very much for the time to speak with you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. Next is the Department of Recreation and Parks, the Child Care Stabilization Fund Grant Award, and Mr. Art Thurshepard presenting. Director.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Shepard.
Good morning. I was here 5 weeks ago on January 11th regarding authorization for an online application for some American Rescue Child Care Stabilization Funds. And in that short period of time, the grant funding has been awarded with an increase of $7,560. So I'm asking you today to approve the receipt of that full grant money in the amount of $84,560. And this will assist in the operating costs of the Hollywood Recreation Center, Evergreen Elementary, Duke Elementary, Letty Dent Elementary, and the Chesapeake Charter School. It will come at a right time. So I'm asking for your authorization today, Commissioners, for the receipt of this funds.
Well, I move to approve and accept the Child Care Stabilization Fund grant award from the Maryland State Department of Education in the amount of $84,650, and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the budget amendment for $84,650 and related documents.
Second, discussion. Just quick question, better understanding of how this is used. These programs are great, and of course support this, getting this funding in. And this all works out of the enterprise fund, so it operates self-sufficiently in essence. So this $84,000, is that to hire extra staff? Does it provide scholarships to families to send their children to this? Just trying to figure out, how does it factor into?
That's a great question regarding this money, which is not a lot, but it certainly is a big help, because this is our second phase of this money. But what this is going to allow us to do at Letty Dent, where we're wanting to open back up because of COVID, our registrations went down. Now we can open that up without full registration, so the ones that are wanting to go in, we can effectively have them in the centers.
Good.
Great question, but that gives a great opportunity for some of the families that we wouldn't otherwise be having a center for.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, what I'd like you to do is follow up with just a memo telling us how this is going to be different from what the schools already provide in these situations. I mean, I know they have after-school activities and stuff, but just a little bit more detail. I mean, I support it, of course. Thank you for getting it. Take it.
You got it.
Use it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I got a first and second. All in favor, right?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Next is from the Department of Economic Development, Affordable Housing Project Payment in lieu of taxes agreement request from Osprey 2 LLC. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf, and good morning, still morning, Commissioners. As Mr. Weiskopf said, Osprey Property Company 2 LLC is requesting that St. Mary's County enter into a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement, actually 2 agreements, for renovation of the Fox Chase Village apartment complex, which will be renamed Admiral's Landing. Osprey was awarded federal low-income housing tax credits for the project. This tax credit program was created to encourage the private sector to invest in the construction and rehabilitation of housing for low and moderate income families. Tax credits are awarded on a competitive basis. According to the Maryland Department of Housing and Urban Development, the low-income housing tax credit is the most important resource for creating affordable housing in the United States today. This is a proposed rehabilitation and enhancement of an existing 134-unit apartment complex located in Great Mills. The total rehabilitation and construction cost is projected to exceed $12 million. Using the Maryland DHED jobs calculator, Admiral's Landing will generate a total of 370 construction jobs. Admiral's Landing will serve working households in a mixed income setting. Annual household incomes are expected to range between $32,610 and $65,220. Additionally, 5% of the units will be accessible to households with physical disabilities, and 2% of the units will be equipped with hearing and vision features. Unit upgrades include appliances, cabinets, countertops, bathrooms, flooring, windows, and doors. A renovated clubhouse will include maintenance and leasing offices, as well as a community room with a kitchenette, a business center, Wi-Fi for resident access. They're also going to upgrade refurbish the playground to have grilling stations, a patio, and seating areas. The county has a history of offering pilots for affordable housing projects. Most recently, commissioners approved a pilot with Lex Woods in 2019. Conifer for Patuxent Apartments in 2018, and for Queen Anne Apartment Complex in 2017. All those pilot agreements call for a $200 reduction in taxes per unit for a 20-year period. The existing Foster Chase Apartments has an existing pilot agreement on it dated January 11th, 2005. That has a 30-year term on it. Osprey was originally requesting to maintain the existing terms of that and extend the term. The amount of existing, that pilot was, the calculation was kind of complex. It was the greater of $32,588, or 2.44% of project revenues. We met with Osprey and said, we've been doing $200 per unit reduction, and that's what we think the county will be most comfortable with. They went back and recalculated and said that was acceptable to them, and in fact provided more income to the county. So it was a better deal for us, and it worked out well for them. As a condition of the county granting a pilot to Osprey, the agreement includes a requirement for a continued financial feasibility review every 5 years to ensure that they need the tax credit. They need to demonstrate that. And if they don't, we can change the agreement. So that's all I have to say. Brian Lopez from Osprey Properties is here in the audience, as well as Dennis Nicholson from the Housing Authority.
All right, I had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
First off is, if we approve this, they can't sell this. They can't get the pilot and then turn around, improve the property and turn around and sell it.
That I don't know the answer to that. Maybe
Well, I guess would the pilot transfer with sale?
Yeah, would they be able to novate it?
Mr.
I guess what.
Climb up, Brian.
I mean, I want to give them the ability to get a break on taxes.
Yeah.
Make it rosy and turn around and sell it to somebody else.
Have a seat. Brian Lopez from Osprey.
Hey, John, I'm Brian Lopez with Osprey. Thank you for having us. The way that the pilots are written, it has a provision in it that if you sell or refinance the property, the pilot goes away. So that's part of the reason we had to put a new pilot on this one rather than keep the old pilot in
Okay,
place.
well, while we got you here, I remember I was on the Board of Education when this project was initially brought to the county back in the late 90s and eventually built. And the point is what we ended up inheriting in St. Mary's County was a lot of people from other counties, that Prince George's, Charles, that sent people down here to live in our communities, which is a great thing. But they had a lot of needs, and I remember on the Board of Education is we recognized the impact on the school system with trying to meet the needs of these children. Now, the residents that live there, are they going to continue to be able to live there while you're doing this renovation?
They will. So it's a little more complex. So we're changing the unit mix a little bit. We're adding some 3-bedroom units. Those units that are going to be renovated to 3-bedroom units, we're going to, basically through natural attrition, we're going to let the vacancy get up to probably 20%, move people out of those units, renovate those to the 3-bedroom units, but everybody else will stay in place during their renovation. We'll either make arrangements for them in what we call hospitality suites or move them to a hotel room while we renovate their kitchens and baths.
Okay. Now, when it's finally done and you do have this 20% vacancy rate, will that be prioritized on residents of St. Mary's County, or will other counties be able to look at us and say, hey, they got 20% more rooms down there, let's move down there?
So they put in law that we can't have priorities for counties, for specific county residents. So it is first come, first served. I mean, the good benefit is that we're in the community and we'll have advertising locally. So we do maintain a waiting list that just is more of a first come, first serve.
All right, that's my last question, advertising. How do you advertise when you have the units available? Do you go in the local Southern Maryland newspaper, or does it go in the state of Maryland? How's that advertising done?
We have to follow a fair housing advertising plan, but a lot of it's done through either direct mailing to certain zip codes around us, or Craigslist is different places like that. There's internet advertising throughout, but mostly it's signage. I mean, signage usually is the biggest driver of our traffic.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead.
A You advertised 370 jobs. So my question is, are they local jobs, or do you just go out and find the low bidder?
I'd say a lot of them are local. St. Mary's is a interesting place to bring contractors. You don't get a lot of people that want to come either from Virginia or the DC Metro. It usually is pretty local. We hire a general contractor. That number comes from the Maryland State calculator. I don't know how they calculate it.
Okay, my next question is, we've had a lot of concerns locally about a number of the apartment complexes in Lexington Park for vandalism, for drug use, for all kinds of things. So my question is, with the renovation that you're going to do to improve the facilities, what are you going to be doing about the security and the management of those facilities once they get done? Because it seems to be a recurring problem in many of those apartment complexes down there for just a whole bunch of problems. And so, my concern is you get the pilot, get the pigs moved up, but the background, as Commissioner Hewitt just points out, is, when the people are moving down here and, things start to happen, you ultimately, as the owners, are responsible for that. And, it's easy to get the pilot and we move on, but the recurring problems, whether the units have been renovated or not.
Yeah. Security has become an issue in our entire portfolio, just generally. I mean, we've had more and more security issues. We just had an incident at Indian Bridge, which, that community's been safe for a long time. So we do have, we are going to put security cameras into the property. And the good news now is you can monitor those pretty remotely. So you can pretty much consistently have somebody monitoring those camera systems. We also have a fairly large portfolio that is managed by Habitat America in this area. So we have enough mass to have full-time staff at all the properties. We're looking at our entire portfolio as well, just to see if it makes sense to have on-site people living on site, one of our maintenance people or somebody to just keep a better eye on how things are operating. But we're going to install security cameras at Indian Bridge as well. But we already have them in the plans for this property.
Thank you.
I think my question piggybacks on what Commissioner Morgan was saying. Fox Chase Village is probably the hub of a lot of crime in the Great Mills area. With that being said, I'm familiar with many low-income housing units and apartment complexes. Excuse me. When you're talking about the video surveillance footage, we're not just talking about inside the walkways. Are you going to go ahead and put them on the outside so the angles are clear? Are you talking about high-resolution video that can actually be actionable by law enforcement? And also the license plate reader systems that are available. Are you going to be putting those in?
We could look into the license plate readers. I mean, this one does have 2 entrances in and out, so I mean, it would be pretty easy to install that. Yes, it will be on the outside so that we can try and get all of the angles covered. And what we generally try and do is get a system that the police department can tie into so that they can, if they wanted to pull up, if they get a call, they can get into our video system as well.
Yeah, I got a guy named Neil that anytime, in my other capacity, when something happens, I give him a call, the video's downloaded, and then the LPRs are installed, and I mean, within hours, the crime is solved, if not already prevented. So that's why it's very important to me, not only as a deterrence, but, if we can go ahead and get the particular perpetrators brought into custody, or the sheriff's department can, not us, that's important. What is the stance from the management company on violations of law or multiple violations, on removal of those that have committed crimes?
If they get convicted of a crime while they're on, it's an immediate reason for eviction or filing on them. And that's part of the whole, part of the bigger security picture or tenant selection picture. We're going to be taking over management of this property. It does have a reputation. That's why we're changing the name. A lot of it goes to tenant selection. So we have criminal and credit background screening for everybody. Part of the reason we chose to do the renovation the way we are doing it, and the structure, the rent structure, the way we're trying to do it, is to avoid turnover. St. Mary's County, or I should say more Lexington Park area has had, I mean, you do have a glut of low-income housing. We have more probably in this region than in a lot of other regions, or not regions, but concentrated number of these low-income housing tax credit projects. So we tried to take an approach, again, adding 3 bedrooms. Not many projects in this area have 3 bedrooms. We tiered the income levels so that we're serving residents who can live there for longer periods of time. One of the biggest issues with vacancies is that the typical multifamily project turns over at about 50% per year. So we try and reduce that by having good services for our residents and pre-screening them a little bit better. And if we can do that and successfully manage it, we hope to reduce crime in a lot of different ways. So.
It's not the leasing that I'm so much concerned about. I've seen, and I call it the racket in a friendly term, but with, they find the one individual that it has a clean background. They apply, they meet all the standards, but then what you run into in a 3-bedroom is, or even a 2-bedroom, is there's a family of 10 that is actually coming and going and living there, commuting back and forth. And I can speak to that because I've seen the addresses 60 miles away from Lexington Park, and vice versa. So what mechanisms do you have in place as management to go ahead and curtail that and or actually, make it so it doesn't happen in the first place?
So they do quarterly inspections. That's the main way that we identify people who are not on the lease. With the tax credit program, you have to list everybody that's on the lease. So if you do a quarterly inspection, and it does happen. It especially happens with voucher holders that they have unfortunately, usually it's a single woman with a child or something, and they bring in a boyfriend. It's often a big issue with having unauthorized residents on the property. On-site management helps, and active management helps. I can't say we're perfect at management, but Habitat does as good a job as anybody. They're a local, the founder of Habitat is a St. Mary's original resident, so she's pretty local. So we do our best through the quarterly inspections to try and identify those issues.
And last question, beyond all that, have you engaged the Sheriff's Department for a resident deputy program?
We have not yet.
There's been extreme success with that. There's certain areas and complexes that have 3 resident officers that are there. They have marked cruisers. I can tell you that I've seen firsthand the drop instantaneously in that small hub that happens with having that presence right then and there. Ultimately, that's a decision for the Sheriff's Department on their secondary employment policy as to whether they would like to engage in that. But there's other complexes that have it in St. Mary's, and it's been successful. So just thoughts,
now that you mentioned that, I know Habitat did engage, I think it was one of the officers from the Sheriff's Department on Patuxent Crossing. It's been helpful, and they are now actually patrolling Indian Bridge as well.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you very much for answering these questions. I know they were somewhat off topic, but I truly appreciate it.
Anytime.
No, I think you're correct on the complaints that I receive out of Fox Chase, are people are scared to go out at night because of the number of people who are roaming around and they're scared for their safety. Right. I get phone calls about vagrants who's sleeping in hallways and doorways at night, and by the time somebody gets there, they're gone, or they got to pick them up and move them around or something. So I do become concerned, particularly for the elderly who are living back. They were just scared, period, and their want for security and feeling safe in their abode is very important to me. So I appreciate your time.
No problem. And again, if I think Chris, Dennis, they have my cell phone number. If you guys have problems, we're going to be there for a long time. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I move to approve the payment in lieu of taxes agreement with Osprey Property Company 2 LLC for the Admiral's Landing Affordable Housing Project, and have the Commissioner present sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Castellanos. Next, we have Department of Public Works and Transportation. The first is a Southern Maryland Seaplanes LLC lease agreement. Mr. Gary Whipple.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. So the department's before you this morning to request your permission to approve a lease with Southern Maryland Seaplanes LLC for office space within the Captain Walter Francis Duke Terminal Building at the St. Mary's County Regional Airport. Southern Maryland Seaplanes is operated out of the terminal building under an initial lease approved back in December of 2020. They've been in business since 2018 and operate a local sightseeing operation in addition to an FAA-certified flight school. Their business has increased in the past year, and they are now requesting a new lease agreement for a larger suite located in the newly renovated portion of the facility. The proposed start date of the lease is the 1st of March, and we have our punch list walkthrough inspection tomorrow. This initial lease agreement is for 1 year and may be renewed for up to 3 annual periods. And in addition to the office space, the county will provide 3 tie-down spaces for their aircraft on the ramp at the terminal building. So we're requesting your approval of the lease.
Move to approve and authorize the Commission President to sign the SOMD Seaplanes LLC lease agreement for office space within the Captain Walter Francis Duke Terminal Building at the St. Mary's County Regional Airport.
Second.
You have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioners. And next is also from the Department of Public Works and Transportation, the Calvert County Solid Waste Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes, Commissioners, the department is before you now to obtain your approval for a 5-year extension of the current MOU with Calvert County for the continued disposal of solid waste at the Appeal landfill. Since February 2002, St. Mary's County and Calvert County have maintained an agreement that allows our county to use Calvert's Appeal landfill to dispose of residential waste collected at the county's 6 convenience centers, as well as construction and demolition debris collected at the St. Andrews landfill site. This proposed extension runs for 5 years through February of 2027, and it retains the same conditions as the existing 35 loads per week for residential, 500 tons for construction and demolition debris per month, the same delivery schedule based upon the Appeal facility's operating hours, and the out-of-county tipping fee has been updated to $84.05 a ton from $78.57 a ton, which represents a 7% increase over the 5 years. And that rate is in the current operating budget, the 84 and a nickel. And then this extension has been reviewed by both the acting solid waste manager and the county attorney for Calvert County. And so we request your approval of this extension.
Mr. Whipple.
Yes, sir.
What's always bothered me about this agreement we have with Appeal is we have our contractors, our refuse collectors, take the stuff over there, only to be put in another vehicle and transferred back through our county to King George. Is that true or not true?
So in this particular case, since January of last year, due to the solid waste disposal contract that we have, the county collected solid waste from the convenience centers is actually delivered directly to the Covanta facility in Lorton, Virginia. So the commercial haulers, the businesses and those that collect on the outside from county government, they still transport to Appeal and then to King George. But currently,
Yeah, back through Appeal, back through our county.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the issue I have with that is why don't we build our own? Now, I'd say to you 2 things. First thing, I would like to know, does this agreement have to be voted on today? Can this extension be, say, wait 2 weeks until our next meeting? And secondly, can you give us some kind of a breakdown of what we're paying a year or over 5 years for Appeal to take our stuff, only to haul it back over our roads, back to King George, Virginia to get there? Why don't we build our own, save that 84, that 7%, and then haul it there ourselves? Because it doesn't make sense to take it from here over there, back over the bridge, needs to be fixed anyway or replaced, and then over there.
Yes, sir. And The solid waste management plan is currently being updated. We're looking to do a 10-year update from calendar year 23 to calendar year 33. And there's three main methods of disposal that we have. Contracted hauling, as we're doing now. We have a permitted landfill cell expansion at the St. Andrews facility. We have an active current permit to open up a landfill cell.
And you've had that for a long time.
Sure. And we also have a permit to run a transfer station, which we've kept active and current as well. So there are options, and we would like to be able to present those to you in the solid waste plan update. For this particular MOU extension, certainly this can be tabled at this point for further analysis, and then we can send any comments or any changes we have to Calvert County for them to consider. We just wanted to keep this on track to have it renewed while it was current, but we can do that if that's the sense of the commissioners.
Mr. Acting President, I would motion that we table this memorandum of understanding at least for 30 days until we understand the cost that we're incurring by sending it to appeal and the cost that it would cost we may incur to have our own.
Will this impede will this hurt anything by recognizing Commissioner Hewitt's request? Is there a timing factor that we're behind or up on?
No, this will not affect the operating budget. So the operating budget is based upon this current MOU.
Correct.
And the extension thereof. So yes, that is how the budget is set up. But this MOU provides us an option for if we're not hauling to Covanta in Lorton. This gives us an option.
In order to accommodate Commissioner Hewitt's request, it won't affect anything for the next 30 days as far as the county is concerned.
That's correct.
Okay, I could support that, Commissioner Hewitt.
Okay, well, I make that motion.
Well, just how does that work with the current MOU expires? So will we be without an MOU?
So current operations, we can request permission from the appeal facility to continue until it's updated. It's been reviewed by staff at Calvert County, the acting solid waste manager and the county attorney have reviewed the document. So they've signaled that the extension as drafted is acceptable to them.
If I could just make a comment, if you look at the second page of the Memorandum of Understanding, actually item number 8, that this MOU can be terminated in 30 days. So
right.
My thought process personally would be to go ahead and do this today, then Mr. Whipple and DPWT can come back at a later date with their new solid waste plan, and if it changes something, and they can also do your analysis as well as part of that, and if there's a change to be made, it can be, this MOU can be.
Because I don't want to jeopardize any current operations.
Well, not only the current operations, but my concern is this conversation has come up before about shifting a landfill to St. Mary's County. We've already had over $7 million faux pas based on the last one that came right out of our reserves for a lawsuit settlement due to leaching. What environmental studies have we completed to go ahead and say that we could do this? Current ones, not past tense. What are going to be the effects on the community? What is going to be the effects of the noxious gas that is going to come from this? The surrounding properties that are going to be there, the traffic that is going to be increased, the commercial vehicle traffic on that roadway, the overall impacts to the community. It sounds good to do, but if you drive down Brown Station Road, up the road on a nice warm day, the odor, it comes right through your car and it knocks you over, and it spreads to the surrounding communities right off White House Road, and some days you can smell it to the Beltway. So those are my major concerns when it comes to, does the good outweigh,
Right, and that brings up a very good point, because the permits that we hold are just the solid waste disposal permits. We would still have to upgrade the scale house. We'd have to do the environmental assessment, the design, the construction. So the permits are simply the refuse disposal permits. And so we would like to address that in the solid waste plan update and give you the three options that we normally have: commercial hauling, transfer station, landfill.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're way past time. I would say to you, I withdraw my motion because of the 30 days, but I still believe what we need to figure out is why we want to send it over there, pay their tipping fee, only to have it go back across our roads.
I agree.
That part just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I definitely agree with that. I think there's got to be a better way, even if it's increasing how our contractors are working to increase the loads to save the money. There's got to be a cost-benefit savings on the overall plan. So either way, I think it's a massive undertaking to go ahead and launch this on our own, and we'll have a massive impact to the citizens of this county.
Right, and there's several things to consider: hauling costs, disposal costs. There's lots of different elements to that overall cost.
Yeah.
You get your marching orders.
So to summarize, Commissioner Hewitt's motion is withdrawn. We follow the lead of Acting Director Weisskopf, and we proceed to vote. Am I correct?
Yeah, I move to approve and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the extension of the MOU between the Commissioners of St. Mary's County and the Commissioners for Calvert County relating to the disposal of solid waste at the Appeal landfill.
I'll second that.
You have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you,
Mr.
Commissioners.
Whipple.
Thank you, Commissioners. And next is item H, which is from the County Administrator to approve an employment contract.
I move to authorize the Commissioner President to sign the employment contract for the St. Mary's County Government Director of Public Works and Transportation with the terms and conditions as indicated.
Second.
I have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. And next is from the Department of Human Resources, Personnel Policy Manual Update. Catherine Pratson presenting. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Preston.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You may recall that in January, we looked at the pandemic-related policies and updated 3 of those. One was the vaccine and testing policy that was required through the OSHA mandate. That is no longer required. So the first item that I'm asking the commissioners to consider is to rescind the COVID-19 vaccination policy. In addition to those items, there are a couple of policy updates that are being requested, primarily that align with our current practices, and they're just to bring the manual up to speed. The second item, and commissioners have already approved Juneteenth as an official county holiday, and this would incorporate it into the manual. The third item being requested is that employees who work 24/7 and who work on holidays are provided floating holiday leave. Our current policy states that as of June 30, any balance of unused floating holiday leave is eliminated. The request is that an unused balance is transferred to sick leave, is converted to sick and safe. This impacts our law enforcement employees predominantly, but also EMS and the 911 center.
I have a question on that. Why the decision to just sick and safe if it was actually 4 hours that would have been worked? Was there just a rationale behind doing that versus saying the employee has an option to convert it to annual and/or sick and safe?
Sick and safe leave is not paid out. So the balance can be used toward your retirement if you're retiring. It can be donated if you're not retiring. So it does not have a fiscal impact. If it's converted to annual leave is paid out.
Okay, so they wouldn't have a fiscal impact if they have that floater because they already worked it and it's just balancing out?
Right, and then they have the year to use it. People who are scheduled 24/7 are given the floating holiday leave in July 1, so they have the year to use that, and this is in the circumstance that for whatever reason they can't.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
The next item is clarifying the pay that is received to employees when the county closes from weather closures. In the past, administrative leave was granted to employees. With the dawn of COVID, we are expecting and requiring people that can telework to telework when county buildings are closed. And this clarifies the different pay that is received from employees. Those that have to come in and work are granted an emergency closing pay. Those who can telework are expected to telework, and then they're just paid their regular rate. Those who cannot telework and who are losing hours because a building is closed would still get the administrative leave.
Good question, though. If the county government buildings are closed, or county government's closed, would they still be required to telework if we've closed the government?
Yes, if individuals are authorized and able to telework, that's the expectation. And we've been doing that since the beginning of COVID, since everybody received laptops. So this really just clarifies the process.
So are we?
Same thing the government and the contractors have been told they have to do also.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, is there a clarification that, you know, we're no longer actually closing county government then? It's just that the buildings are closed for safe travel. So government's not closed. We're always open. We're always working because we got somebody working. And is that what we're talking about?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's what we've been doing since.
No, I understand. You obviously, the perception could be, well, wow, everybody else is off. How come I got to be off? Well, no, we never really close. We're always working.
The building's closed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just the
and-
building.
And our voicemails are switched to our emails, so we are.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Thank you.
On call.
I
On
got
call,
you.
all the time.
Snow days.
Yes, no more snow days because of telework.
County attorney teleworks, right? Yeah, there it is.
The fifth item is really just to clarify the language. Our telework agreements used to require an IT telework request, and this was in the past before everybody had laptops to ensure that IT could support that, and that form is no longer needed. Another item is addresses administrative leave as well. The only thing that is calculated to determine overtime is actual time worked. So administrative leave is not time worked. And that, again, is just articulated in the policy. And then lastly, we provide tuition reimbursement. Thank you to the commissioners. It's an item that's always in the HR budget. We wanted to identify that ebooks are a reimbursable expense because many of our employees that are students are finding the only way that they can access the content and the curriculum is through an ebook. So an ebook is a necessary purchase in order to take an online course. And with approval, these changes will be incorporated into the manual. Employees will be notified, and then the manuals are always posted on our employee portal.
I move to approve the proposed personnel policy updates as presented with the edits incorporated into the St. Mary's County Government Manual, Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pratson, and that concludes the county administrator time. President Guy.
Okay, we'll go right into Commissioner's time. We'll start with Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope everyone had a happy Valentine's Day. Day off on a lot of people wearing red today, so happy Valentine's Day belatedly. I do wish to send out our condolences to Leonardtown. Kennedy Abel passed away yesterday, longtime icon of the county and particularly of Leonardtown. So to his family, we extend our condolences.
Good man.
Captain Hall was here previously, and he did text me with the results of his in the Sheriff's Department's traffic enforcement on 235. And he did include there was 15 citations and 40 warnings giving out. Good numbers. I wish they were a little bit in reverse because, you know, I'm a big advocate of traffic enforcement along 235, but it's a good way to get started. I hope the citizens out there know that the Sheriff's Department is working vigilantly to try to, you know, turn it, instead of being the Daytona 500 racetrack out there, they will have a little bit of decency to the citizens out there. With that, that's about all I have for today, so thank you very much.
Did he give the how long of a period there was 15 citations and 40 warnings?
I think we were out there for 3 to 4 days.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thank you. The ceremony this morning for Dr. Bridget was absolutely moving. You know, I really want to touch on that. There's not much more going on than the fact of the sacrifice of service to the government, or the people, I should say. When you're in public service, you know, for that long a period of time, and Dr. Bridget has been serving in public service for far longer than 8 years. She was just with St. Mary's County for 8 years. There's a lot of giving of yourself, and there comes point in times where sometimes you feel you have nothing left to give, and you question your service. And then you regroup and you find a positive project and you find the positivity that's there, and you continue to move forward. It's often not easy to be in those positions, and constantly hearing both sides of what is going on, managing the positivity with the negativity, keeping a smile on your face through it all, and trying to always find the best outcome and solution. You know, the managing 5 personalities, and there was multiple personalities as the boards change, and understanding the quirks or the drive of those individuals, as well as understanding the political undercurrent that is constantly going on, and then managing everything coming down from Annapolis, and all the while keeping the gears turning, serving the people, making sure their needs are met. That is a true testament to the heart of an individual. And you know, there was times, I can tell you, that I was frustrated, and because I just didn't understand something that was being explained to me, and I had to sit down and hear it a different way. And Dr. Bridget was amazing at doing that. She truly was. When it came down to our radio project, I mean, we went county to county and spoke with different emergency services directors, and she took the time to do that. You know, I don't know that she necessarily had to. She could have just gave it to another department head, but she wanted to be involved. So when we spoke about the projects today and that amazing video presentation, Dr. Bridget's fingerprints, her footprint, is alive in every single thing that you saw. We make the decisions. We have conversations publicly. Sometimes we eviscerate projects that might have come forward from the county administrator and then come back around and find a different way to do it. She has left a legacy behind that is truly paramount. And every time a citizen in this county, and every time a commissioner goes around and sees a building, her memory will be forever there. You know, the plaques on the walls may have the commissioners' names at the time, but her guidance, her legacy is there. And these department heads that worked with her and formed this team truly have advanced this county. So I could probably speak on this for an extended period of time. Just truly amazing, everything she's done, and I thank her, her family, her husband, and everybody that supported her in allowing us to have her here for the amount of time that we did. So thank you very much. I wish you the best in retirement. I hope you go out and get more grapes, make more wine, and enjoy the vineyards. And I'm sure you have one of those big wine hats out there, and a nice set of gloves as well. So it'll be, I'm sure you'll have a good time. And I'll send my mom and dad down for a couple bottles of wine, because my mom loves it. And either way, thank you very much for your service.
Eric.
Very good. So start off, I want to echo Commissioner Morgan's condolences to the family of Kennedy Abel. That's a tough loss for the county, for Leonardtown. Southern Maryland weather. If you don't like it, wait a couple hours. It's going to be different. We had a gorgeous day Saturday. We had a little bit of snow on Sunday, 16 degrees this morning. It's going to be 60s on Thursday. It's always changing. It's exciting stuff. The Olympics are going on. If you're watching the Olympics, I love watching the Winter Olympics. There's some crazy sports that are just fun to watch. You don't get to see too often. When I last checked the medal count, Norway was leading with 26 medals. China was in second place with 20. The U.S. was in third place with 17, but there's still time to go. So it's fun to watch. Hope you're enjoying it. This afternoon, a budget work session at 1:30. So tune in for that. Take a look at it. One of the great things about county government, about your local government, is you can watch every step of our process in building a budget, and you can see through all the nitty-gritty just how it comes to be, the steps that it takes. Sometimes it drags out a little long, sometimes it moves quickly, but we've got a budget work session this afternoon at 1:30. Looking forward to it. Tune in and watch it. Thanks.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner President Guy. Commissioner President Guy and I yesterday had the opportunity to go to Chestertown, Maryland yesterday. They just opened their new YMCA, 55,000 square foot building, about $13.9 million. Very impressive facility. And again, they're coming in a couple weeks to give another presentation to YMCA, and let's hope we can move forward. Chiming in on Commissioner Colvin's what we're doing this afternoon, the budget work session. It's going to be the first of several. The next 6 weeks is really the meat and potatoes of doing our budget. What's also I'd like to report is last Friday, we had the LoSAP and OPEB bi-monthly meetings. We meet every 2 months. And what was brought up there, we had our actuary from Bolton Partners. They've been our actuarial firm since 2008 or maybe even before. Anyway, what they told us is our OPEB is fully funded. It's actually fully about 117% funded. It's overfunded. And now's the time to start taking money out of it. They will be giving us a policy statement, giving us direction on how to do it and how to make sure we do not put the county in a bad position OPEB-wise, or retirement plans. The good news is it's going to allow us more flexibility in providing services to our constituents. It's going to free up about $4 million a year that we've been paying out of general fund, and that we can now start taking out of the OPEB fund. You need to remember we do the same thing with the sheriff's plan, the SORP plan. We take those retirement funds out of the sheriff's plan. Now, what this will do is obviously we could expand services, but this commissioner hopes we'll take that money and reduce taxes, specifically reducing the income tax from 3.1 to 3.0, and reducing the homestead tax from 3% to 1%. By doing those two and using the money that's going to come from the savings of the OPEB, we will still have close to $500,000, if not more, of available money to put towards new amenities or new services for the constituents. But what reducing the homestead tax will do, it'll lessen the burden on property owners, anybody who has a primary resident, anybody, but especially on those who are on fixed incomes, our seniors, people who have inherited a house from their parents or their grandparents, and all they pay is a yearly tax bill. It'll lower that expense, and it'll help with what we're facing right now today of high inflation. Those things are eating away at whatever gains people are getting from Social Security increases, any kind of gains they're getting at all. Inflation is eating it away. So, again, pay attention to these budget workshops. They're going to be very important. They'll affect your pocketbook, and it's an important thing, important part of county government. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Now it's my turn. Commissioner President Randy Guy. We start our budget work session today. To me, this is the most important part of my job. From now through March is the biggest part of our budget process. We make a lot of big decisions on how we're spending the taxpayers' money, and definitely pay close attention to it. And I think this year might be a better year, but we've been having some, might say, great years the last couple of years as far as money because of the, I hate to say it, the pandemic and all the additional money we got in to help spend. And unfortunately, the tax rates have been great for us. And yes, we do have a surplus. But it's not really purposely. It was just the way it was in the tax time. It's just the way it happened. But we're going to hopefully solve those in the next few years. Things will be changing. But I'd say that's the most important job, because that is our primary job as commissioners, is to come up with a balanced budget. In fiscal year 2023, that's what we're probably going to have. We hope we'll have this. I'm also into the process of, unfortunately, our federal level seems to be pushing us further and further into high spending and maybe even tax increases the way they're talking. So I'm all for putting our income tax down to 3% this coming year to help everybody, and we'll definitely be looking at that, I'm hoping. So pay attention, and I want the commissioners to concentrate on this budget process. It's the most important thing we have going in our life. And as far as I'm concerned, the whole process of being a commissioner, this is what we're here for, is to make sure we spend the people's money wisely and hopefully increase and maintain a good standard of living for all the people in our county and providing the best services we can. With that said, our budget work session starts today at 1:30. And I'd like to say, talking about I was watching the Olympics, and I did watch some of that, was it the luge, where they got the single, and I watched this lady get a speed of 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. On this little sled, and her head is stuck out in front of it. And then I think it was her head pounding the side of the wall at 80 miles an hour. And I said, those people got to be crazy to do something like that. 80 miles an hour. And I said, this is crazy. But she did it. I don't think but she got close to medal. I don't think she went, that one didn't quite medal, but it's remarkable some of the things that these athletes do. And I know it's in China, but that doesn't matter. I'm watching the athletes myself, and because I like skiing. I've been skiing for almost 50 years, but it's kind of odd to see some of these people at the speeds they go and the aerial feats they do. It's just absolutely amazing. So anyway, with that said, we'll adjourn, and remember, 1:30 we start into our budget session. Meeting is adjourned.